there.
Anybody else recording here? Any reporters? No? Okay. All right, we'll do the minutes first. Any changes or corrections?
We talked about when they removed that old pump house. that that
Yes.
was Possibly for,
Right,
I don't see that. But it's in the order of conditions, so.
yeah, we could add it though. We discussed, a condition that would ask them to consider the old foundation of the pump house when they do remove it, which is probably gonna be like 2 years.
Yeah.
If there's any puddling, and to use that for the drainage basin,
If they need drainage.
if they need to. It's worded much better on the condition.
Yeah.
Feel free to move your chairs around over there if you don't like listening to them.
If I'm here, I couldn't hear you.
Ah, no, it's fine if it's better for you. Thank you, thank you.
Hey. Thank you, very fancy.
Gosh, I've never seen like, well, he's a computer guy. Yeah.
Rather me move to the other side? Speak truthful, I gotta hear what you have to say, or else once it's becoming.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's okay.
Is everything to July 7th?
That's it. All right, thank you. You want your key back?
Later.
Okay. Give it to me so I don't forget.
Take the file up, sorry.
Yeah, just drag it off. That way they're all in the computer anyway, for other times we go back sometimes. Excellent. I just don't want to forget that's his real working. He wasn't very happy. I said, get rid out of my drawer. He's like, no, those all stink. Okay, thank you. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, so we're going to add that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, we have a very big meeting tonight, although it's a little bit improved because one of the cases decided they wanted to continue, so.
No.
Originally scheduled, we have an NOI for the Main Street Eastbrook Bridge replacement proposal. 2 RDAs for the pump house, a pump house for transporting maple sap on South Road, an RDA to replace a retaining wall along the Scantic River, an NOI for a house on Stony Hill Road, a continued hearing for an NOI for a house on 374A Wilbraham Road. And then we'll do the Main Street Eastbrook Bridge and then the Glendale Solar Project.
We're not doing the Eastwood.
Yeah, but I still have to say.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, well, let's get the Main Street Eastbrook Bridge one out of the way. They asked to be continued. So we need to vote to continue them to August, to the normal August 21st meeting. All in favor?
Was that a motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a motion. Do you have a second on the motion?
Sure.
You can tell it's been a rattly weekday for sure. Okay. Motion passes. We need to sign, we have a form.
Yeah, I do. Oh, wait a minute, this is a determination. This is for Glendale.
It's a lot of papers tonight.
Roy Walker signed that one for Glendale. Okay, this is one. Yeah, I have one here. I haven't made a new one yet, so I just improvised, but you can sign it and then I will fill it in
Okay.
later and send it to him.
Seventeenth, right?
Today
Yes.
is, yeah.
It would be like me to screw this one up. Okay. All right, next we have
Here.
an RDA to construct a pump house for transporting maple sap on South Road, parcel 13025000. It's across the street from 142 South Road. If anybody's interested. The owner is Dave Stockbridge Smith. Is he going to be here?
Here.
Yeah.
Want to sit up here? Okay. And there's a folder in there for them. Who also owns the lot, another lot across the street. He's indicated a likely location for the pump house based on his current clearing and path and the contour dictated locus of gravity for the sap collection. Yeah, okay, do the
First one.
do the one that says it reorients everything. The one that says with the natural heritage up there, the very top one. That's weird, didn't come up.
No, it should be there.
Usually don't have any difficulties.
Oh.
Okay. So the road running up and down is South Road. The potential site is the red dot. You'll see that there is a river running by. There's also a huge marsh, a transmission line, and buffer to marsh and buffer to bog. That yellowish thing there is a bog. And all the striped area in green is natural heritage. So it's not in a good area for getting a permit. If you could relocate it at least outside the pink riverfront areas that run along there, the inside hatched area.
How far is that limit from the stream?
Not very far. I just did it based on the dimensions of your maps. So, if you could move it forward, towards the street, but away from the setback. I don't know what the setback is there. I presume it's 100 feet. That would at least get rid of some of the permitting issues. Another alternative might be to move it all the way outside the marsh on the other side, and that would get you out of the natural heritage area.
Just briefly, what's the natural heritage?
Natural heritage, they make polygons that incorporate areas where they have found rare species. So it means you've got rare species there. And you can, especially because you have a forest management plan, build in that area, a sap house, not a sugar house. So you could stay within it if you want to. It just saves you a lot of grief. So if it was me, I would just move it toward the street. Yes.
Hi, I live on South Road, roughly next to it. First of all, just because I'm an exact type of guy, on this thing that was in the newspaper, it said that this is 0 South Road adjacent to 142. 142 is the house across the street.
Well, actually,
Adjacent, it's across the street.
okay.
Okay.
But the rest of the property is adjacent. He also owns all that part behind
I know that.
you.
I've lived here 50 years.
Okay,
That's his house, okay? What
okay,
you just said, coming closer to the street, this is a hill going down there.
okay.
And I'd like to know what it is. What is a pump house? What does he want? Is it that big plastic thing that people store syrup in? What is it?
No, it's a building. It's just like it's like a little shed
It's just for
that,
collecting the sap and getting it into and pumping it into a large container.
That the tubes go by gravity to it.
Right.
What's it have to
Well,
do with?
it's as close to the low point on the property as I could get.
Right, but what is it? Answer the question. What is it? It's a shed.
It's a small
What is it
shed.
beside that? Shed is wooden stuff. In other words, the guy uphill from me.
Yeah.
He does sugar. And he's got this 6 by 6 foot white plastic thing that all the tubes go into.
Yeah.
And that's not what you're after. You're after a shed where like gravity tubes go to it, right?
Yes,
Yeah. And is there electricity to it or
it's going to be powered from solar collectors on the roof.
solar collectors? And will there be any noise from this?
I'm making it soundproof, so all
I
the
do
noise is
live next
inside.
door. And I also want to ask, if you ever do get a permit for this, will you change it once you have it? Will you add something?
No.
He can't.
Okay.
He can't because he's going to be specified to a very
As you
distinct
know,
area.
I've been in business dealing with the public for 50 years. So
Yeah.
I like to find out what's what.
Yeah, a sugar shack. If
Not
he
being
did,
nasty to you, but I want
Hey,
to know what it is.
excuse me, but can you wait till we get to you? Because
Oh, I'm done.
we're kind of running this whole thing here.
Then call it a day, that's all. I thought that was gonna be it. You said, okay, move it that way. Well, there isn't a place that way. There's a hill.
Okay. So he has an active forest management plan, which gets him some exemptions from some of these areas, according to the state forester. But it doesn't get you exemption from the riverfront. So that's the part you're going to have to worry about.
And how far do I need to be from the,
If you can get outside, like I said, those pinkish areas that run along the river, that's the inner riverfront, and the green X's are the outer riverfront. You can do it in the outer riverfront,
it looks like
but not the
pink
other.
area, like in the bottom of the screen, it looks like the pink area is quite wide.
It's 100 feet from the river.
But up in the area where we are, there's a pink area that seems to be very narrow.
Around the bog, that's red,
Yeah,
and that's the no disturb zone. You can't do anything in that.
and so what you're saying is there's a green area.
There's a green
Can I
area.
walk up there? Do we have
Can
a
I?
pointer or
I
anything?
know what you're talking about. Where's it?
Can I go up there and point?
I know this is actually a very complicated site.
Mhm.
Okay, this pink area, this line right here.
Yeah, that's the 100-foot riverfront. So that's 100 feet
But there's,
from the bank.
how come there's no pink area along here?
Because when there's a marsh, which is, it negates the river that runs through it, even if it does and becomes a wetland. So wetlands only have 100-foot buffers, and that's that blue thing. But you're allowed to build inside that buffer in your case. So for instance, if you went a little bit,
Move it this way?
yes, you could do that.
Okay, now the reason why I put it there is because I'm trying to power it with solar collectors.
Yeah,
I need sunlight. I have woods all the way across here. In order to have that work, I'd have to do a bunch of clearing.
you're allowed to clear 5,000 square feet without any permission, but you already have a forest management plan, so you
Yeah.
can do it anyway. So you can just move it a little bit and clear what you need.
So I could just move it this way,
Yep,
just outside of that.
yep.
It's sort of interesting because I don't actually know where the stream is, and I'm not sure what's on the map. When you get
Well, you could hire somebody to delineate it, or somebody could just go out there and see. Is it obvious?
Went today.
Yeah, you went.
The best place that I saw would be where that wood pile is, which is at least 150 feet from
Yeah,
the,
it's like.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be ideal.
and it's flat there, and it's below the hill.
Can I put a bank of solar collectors over here? It's a clearing.
In the clearing?
Yeah, in the clearing.
Where the shed was gonna go.
I have to think about the rules for
Yeah, I don't know.
solar collectors.
It's not that many.
They'll just be on like posts or
You
something.
know, right now, I just put a frame on the top of the building. It's not that big a building. But that's the reason I put it there, but I don't cut down any trees or do anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
How
actually-
big's the building?
It's actually fairly dry. It's 240 square feet. something.
Yeah, it's gonna be 14 by 20.
So there is a tank inside that building.
No, well, in the maple business, there's lots of pumps and stuff.
Yeah,
I haven't scoped it out completely.
Yeah.
So
but it has to come into something so you can pump it up the hill or where you're pumping it to.
yeah, the production is gonna be on the other side of the street where I don't seem to have any problems with conservation.
Yeah,
You have to get permission for a limit of work over there, that's all.
For
A limit of work. So if you build on the other side,
over here.
yeah, over there, and it's a sugar shack that you build over there. In other words, something that boils it down and all of that.
Right.
Then you have to make an application to natural heritage, and you basically draw a square of the area that's going to be cleared and send it to them, and they say yes, because you've got a forestry permit.
Well, I have a field. Which is hard to clear.
Well, that's even better. Your forestry permit covers both. So all 76 acres. So yeah, you could do that.
Except for the solar part. Stuff could just be in woods. Doesn't need it.
Yeah,
There's-
yeah.
There's like no landscaping
Or
associated.
you could clear a little bit of area to put the solar in if you wanted to. Just make sure you make the limit of work big enough to do that. Okay,
it might be less destructive to the riverfront area if he ran a wire across into his field.
that's not simple.
Just a second.
That's
Oh,
very
well,
complicated.
the field is
We'd
over
have to
here.
get a
I
hydrological
thought you said a
connection.
field was south of that.
The whole parcel here and the whole parcel behind Mr. Konversky's house.
Because you said where the dot is now, it's open.
Yes,
It's just a little clear.
It's just a little clearing,
there's a natural
So-
clearing. I don't know why it's
but the
there.
little clearing is probably in the worst possible place.
But yeah, but like if you put like a couple poles, it's not gonna be a giant impact.
No, I don't,
Solar.
I think it would be all right.
I was actually, the building itself is gonna just have 4 piers. So.
But then you're putting a structure in there and that's a much bigger deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even for a sap house. Yes,
So this is more, Dave, than a building, now it's a bank of solar things, or are they on the roof of the building?
Well, they were intended to be on the roof of the building. but
Okay, but are they gonna be?
In order to do
That's
that,
why I said things change.
no, so if I put it where the wood pile is, then I have to clear out a whole bunch of trees.
yeah, you would.
Like half an acre.
Okay, we've got somebody back here.
About a building and a bank of solar.
John Matthews.
Yes.
Just doesn't matter. This is being televised or YouTube, whatever.
Yes,
If the people that are speaking, you need to at least identify yourself.
Good point.
oh, yes, we did mention that, but
But yes.
people forgot.
I did. But it's a building plus another structure that's a bank of solar things, right?
If you move it.
If I move.
If he takes it off the pump house, yeah. So you can go home and think about it, and then you can just submit an RDA for where you want it.
If it's over 200 square feet, he also has to go to the building department.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, all, the presumption is you would go to all the appropriate boards.
Your comment, since you live in Maryland, what would happen if something went wrong with this?
Please talk to him through me and not directly.
Excuse me?
The rules are you're supposed to talk through the chair.
Talk to the chair.
You can talk.
Okay, 'cause
You just can't run the meeting.
no reason to. Okay, there's no reason to. I
This
know
one-
things change and now it went from a house to a house with banks.
Yeah, we've just asked him to move it and it changes things.
The plan just changed. All
It's
these-
still permittable. That's the question.
all the things he would do would have to go through you anyway, right?
That's right.
Excellent. But what about that living in Maryland? What would he do?
The only time
Would be followed?
The only time that this is operational is during the season,
I see.
which is probably less than 2 months.
Yeah, it's like February and March.
All right, I guess I can't look at you. Ask him if it went on the blink in the winter or something, is there any harm it could do, whatever this thing is?
It's
Because he's only here a couple of weeks a year.
a wood frame,
Yep.
it's a small wood
Right,
frame
what's
building,
inside it?
pumps that run on
Okay,
electricity.
right, and if some thermostat or something went screwy,
They don't run automatically when there's nobody there. They
Right.
run,
No,
something malfunctioned in January, sometime that was not maple sugar gas. I wouldn't know.
the worst thing that I can imagine happening would be that one of his tubes would break and his sap house would get full of sap, which would stink.
I can be in trouble. It's just I've had quite a lot of experience with a lot of people.
I understand, but
And I know things.
it's up to us to make the permit.
I've been a veterinarian 51 years and owned the business, and I really have to talk to people and know what they say, and know how much it changes.
Whatever he writes down on the application that he sends is what he's tied down to.
Perfect.
okay, so this is 100 feet. The edge of the pink.
The pink is 100 feet, yeah.
and
So if you go to the river and measure,
feet from this stream also.
no, only 25.
And that,
Because the stream is overpowered by the fact that there's a marsh next to it is what it really comes down to. So the marsh buffer there, I know it's a funny rule.
Cancels. the-
Cancel. Unless there's obvious flow through, which there's not going to be in a marsh.
So I have this line of stream.
Mhm.
I have to stay back 100 feet from it.
Yes,
I can,
and from the edge of the marsh, you need to stay back, probably right up against the stream. You need to stay back 25 feet.
and that little clearing where the fire hit was, you
Yeah.
said was 50,
Yeah.
more than 50.
So you can draw us a map of where you want it and then draw a description, define specifically what it is you want and resubmit it and we can
anything
do
else
it.
I should know about if I would like to separate the collectors from the
It's a little more complicated, but
applications.
since you've got a forest management permit, I don't think that's going to be an issue for you. You have up to 4,000 square feet of building that you can do under a forestry permit. So I think your solar isn't going to be a problem.
No, I'm just worried about putting it in a place where sun can shine.
Yeah, if you put it right there, then we would have to vote on it and decide whether it had to be conditioned, but it's permittable.
Just a second. Is it permittable to put them in the clearing where I can't put the building, or you say it's permittable
It's permittable.
in the woods?
We could consider letting you put the solar in the clearing.
Can you,
We can't commit to that without the actual application. But yeah, we'd probably approve it.
it's not visible from the road.
Yeah,
Things there.
it's not relevant to Concom, unfortunately.
What?
It's not relevant to us. That would be planning board that would worry about that.
It's my understanding that the planning board isn't involved in this. It's
Or the board, building inspector.
okay.
Okay? Do you have any other questions? So it's permittable, you just have to move it to a good place.
Doesn't look like it's even a problem.
And it's not going to be complicated to get the permit, but we can help you with that when you're ready.
Put the building in existing trees. In locations. I probably don't have to cut down any trees.
That's up to you completely.
Yeah.
But you can have a clearing around it. You can have, like I said, 5,000 square feet.
Not disturbing.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, we've got a huge meeting and we've taken up half an hour, so.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for coming. And call Bonnie if you have questions.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move on to,
Before we go, can I just ask that if everybody's signed in yet? I saw some other people come in later. I just want to make sure everybody's signed in. Thank you.
did you sign in?
He
Okay,
did. I thought I saw other people come in later.
all right, so now we're going to open the hearing. Oh, close that hearing. No, don't close. You don't have to close it.
Oh, no, I'm actually the PDF.
Okay. I'm going to open a hearing for an RDA at 478, 488 Main Street for the replacement of a retaining wall.
You do this,
Mhm.
you filed an IDA, shouldn't to continue? What?
Oh, yes, we should. Well, unless he resubmits, he has to resubmit a map anyway. You can just attach it to that one and make a resubmission. You can't continue
You don't
RDAs.
have to continue?
But just tell him you'll use this and he can attach his new map to it and in a good description of the pump house.
Okay.
And then it'll be resubmitted as a brand new one.
Yeah.
Wenda's good at this. She knows. Okay. So we've closed that hearing. And he'll be resubmitting. Okay, the RDA for 478, 488 Main Street is for the replacement of a retaining wall. The owner is New England Equities, and the application is to renovate a landscape timber retaining wall along the Scantic River, replacing timbers with cinder blocks. Anything you want to add to that?
No, well, by the way, I'm Jeff Parent with New England Equities. Yeah, we do have an existing timber wall is very old. I think it's the existing timber wall
There's a picture in there.
that is starting to kind of fall in to the
He's the one on Main Street.
service road on the backside where the garage bays are.
So it's not actually adjacent to the river.
Oh, you have to go back out.
No, it's
up there
across,
over here.
probably about 50 feet away, I would say, from the river, 50 or
All three of
Pick
us,
the one
Oh,
on,
did, okay, yeah.
first time.
it's second to the
But
top.
yeah,
There you
it
go.
says it's next to the Scannick River, but it's.
Well, I put that because obviously the river runs right behind the building,
Yeah,
so.
So that, we were back there trying.
Oh, trying to see the retaining wall, I got you, okay.
And then we saw,
Yeah, so,
Okay, so you want to make a site visit report?
we went and visited, we checked the Scantic River because we thought it was actually on the physical Scantic River, but it was not. And when we were leaving, we noticed that there was a retaining wall that,
yeah,
so that they could go underneath to the garage area.
back up,
So how far away is it from the bank?
right there.
I would say approximately 50 feet.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is way over here. This.
So it's in
over here.
riverfront for sure.
Yeah, the river's behind goes behind the whole building.
Yep.
The wall, it runs parallel, I mean, concurrent, whatever, with the front of the building.
Okay, is there anything about it that makes you anxious about approving it?
No,
I mean, there's a cleared paved or not paved road
They can work from?
behind it, so it's,
Yeah,
driveway.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have a service road that runs behind the building for the trucks that service the Hampden Grog Shop or anybody that has to deliver things to the backside of the building.
Okay, Wyndham?
Well, I'd say that it would be better off we fix it before that collapses and anything could run off and.
Yeah, I agree. There is, this home was built or building was built in 1961. So it falls under the exemptions for the Riverfront Protection Act. And it's minor activities within the riverfront area meeting the requirement of 310 CMR 10.2, 2B1 and 2. Maintenance of existing landscaping is exempt in most cases as a minor activity within the resource area. And the building is exempt because of its date of being built. Additionally, work that increases the protection, this is what Wendell was talking about, the protection of areas in interest protected under the Wetlands Protection Act can be permitted if adequate conditions can be determined to protect those areas. So in other words, what we were talking about was whether you can do it from on that drive as opposed to ever having to go into the dirt part of the riverfront. And that would be one of the conditions.
Yeah.
Okay,
Have a 20-foot driveway right there abutting it.
perfect.
Yeah, it's,
Okay. I have some proposed special conditions, but I don't have copies for
Oh,
everybody.
you do, good, 'cause I don't have them.
One. I don't think I brought, no, I only brought 3 copies.
where do you get your paper?
My husband chose it this time. It's very, very thick. Let him have a copy and I'll read off of yours. Okay, they're pretty standard conditions. Says you need to stay 50 foot away minimum from the bank.
Okay.
That's the very top where it bends from going down into the river to,
It may be
Letting
within
out.
that 50 feet,
Right.
the existing.
okay,
wall.
or to the greatest extent practicable. So, you have to do what you can do.
Right.
If there's a driveway there, then you're already
Yeah, there is a driveway
pretty compact.
back.
Okay, the limit of work line must be as close to the project as practically manageable to the extent possible. We know with these houses and buildings, some of them are 50 feet, some of them are 25 feet from the riverfront.
Right.
So just to the extent that you can. A silt barrier must be installed at the limit of work as far as practicable from the river. So that would mean a wattle, or if you use a regular silt barrier, don't dig it in. You just put it there, bend it over and put the stakes in it because we
Right,
want to disturb the riverfront as little as possible. And if I were you, I would put it right up against the edge of that driveway.
Yeah, I think we were a little bit, I had to do the septic system several years back and then we had to do the same thing along
Okay,
the backside of the bank.
okay. You need to notify us 48 hours immediately after the silt barrier is put in.
Okay,
And we have 48 hours to come and inspect it.
okay,
Usually just one person will run over and do it right away. Okay. If you use any soil, we ask you to use locally sourced topsoil as a planting medium, which must not contain extraneous matter or invasive weeds.
Okay.
All right.
So you said you're doing concrete blocks or the big 6x6x3?
Yeah, it's actually they're 6x2x2s.
Okay.
Okay.
It's the ones you see on the side of a highway.
Interlocking.
Yes, they interlock. And the gentleman's doing the work for us, Earth Movers, which I believe he's right here in Hampden, I think,
Okay.
Munson maybe.
Soil, sand piles, and other work materials must be outside the 100-foot riparian resource area. So that probably means on the drive coming in, not the one that runs behind.
Right.
Or in the,
Like if they have a stockpile of the bricks
Yeah.
or they have
on the
soil that's
parking
going to
lot.
go in
Yeah.
There.
the parking lot.
I try to have him bring it in when he does the job at the time he's doing it because obviously we have a daycare.
right.
Yeah.
We can't impede the daycare of having.
But even then, you don't want him to dump it behind, have him dump it over.
Yeah, he's gonna dump it probably closer to the side, like
Okay,
further on the service road and then
right.
bring it down.
And if it remains overnight, especially if it's soil or sand, you need to surround it with a wattle
Okay,
and cover it very tightly because we've had them blow off in the storms and end up running to the riverfront. So we want to make sure. That's only if you leave them overnight. Most people do this in a day, but
yeah, he's looking at probably day and a half to take out the old one and get the new one in.
okay. And we're allowed to visit the site as necessary during the construction, just to check.
Okay.
Any questions?
Well, I do have another question that I brought up to Tom when he was out there today. So when the service road that goes behind is just basically stone. It was brought in and compacted. Over the last several years, the weather conditions hasn't been cold enough and the plow guys plowed a lot of the gravel up off of the back. One of the things we wanted to do was, once this retaining wall is done, have them bring in some gravel and put it back down and pack it so that it's not all just dirt that's blowing around everywhere and it's more stone.
Yes, you could do that, because it's exempted the same, it's existing landscape.
Right, okay.
But you'd be smart to come back and just, talk to us about it so that if we want to add any conditions for it.
I did bring pictures I can leave of what I'm describing, so
You want to just add it to this application?
if we could, that would be great, because he's gonna try to do it at the same time.
Are there any conditions you would add?
So this is basically,
Been there.
Other than keeping the silt fence, I
Same rules about where you pile it.
it's a stone that's there, actually.
Yeah, okay.
mean, the trucks do go back there for the garage shop too, which is all the way at the other end of the building, so.
So do you want Bonnie to write it in for you?
If she's okay with that, or if you want me to do it, or.
Yeah, here you go.
Just put under the description, add
You
additional.
want to
Yeah,
add
work
gravel
description.
to the existing driveway and not outside.
Right.
That's the
Yep.
critical element. All right. Somebody want to make a motion?
Yeah. I make a motion, I don't know what
Motion that
for what?
to approve this, including the driveway?
Yes,
Wait a minute, you haven't,
approve this as stated.
negative, positive, or what number you wanted?
He hasn't made the motion yet.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna just make a motion to approve this with the added driveway materials as described.
And what box would you indicate?
Is there an exemption from riverfront? There's no negative.
Yes, I would use the front of the conditions as the exemption example for you. It's written in there.
Can we keep those pictures?
Absolutely,
This
yes.
is his request.
Okay, so you have that.
And then this is the determination. I don't know which one I put your extra paper on.
Okay, we have a current motion to approve it, including the gravel driveway
Yes.
under the exemption for existing landscape and a building built before 1961. And the fact that it increases the protection rather than deteriorates it.
Mm-hmm.
You can just copy this off. on-
Yeah, I will.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
No opposition. Okay. You're approved.
I'll send it. Thank you very
Wait
much.
a minute, we have to sign it and he could actually walk away with one.
Okay.
Oh, you have two copies?
Yeah, I have two
Okay.
copies. If you want to wait a minute, I'll have them all sign it. And
I'll just step out here, so.
actually, can I have this paper back?
Oh, yeah.
Because you're gonna get it in here.
Oh, in there? Okay, perfect.
Okay. Here's one, here's one. Fine.
I'll find the page.
Okay, we will close that hearing. So now we will open a public hearing
Five.
for an NOI DEP WE 1730242. At 0 Stony Hill Road. Parcel 21194 000. The owner, is the applicant is Bedrock Financial, Al Joyce. And the owner is Charles Rene LaRoe Jr. for the estate of Charles R. LaRoe. Want it? Yep, okay. Okay, there's the lot. And you want to describe it?
Oh, yeah, Judy.
Oh, thank you.
Nope, got it.
Who made the site visit?
I did. We did.
A
Stony,
long time ago.
last week, Stony Hill Road,
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Okay.
across from the solar thing.
We really have had a lot of recent cases. They've been rushing through this month.
Okay.
I think this
Couple
is
months.
all.
Okay.
Yeah. make sure we have it on.
I don't. I know I sent some pictures, I think.
Special conditions. And then just the state stuff. Yep, you're all set.
Go ahead, you wanna describe it if you can?
Oh, all right, so we found that there were two existing storm drains that appear to be draining into a ditch that continues into the wetland. That appears to have wetland edge and
Where's the
soils.
page?
It was very muddy. We also found additional appeared to be an isolated land subject to flooding nearby with it appeared to be a wetland bed, sedge. I don't know what it was. And it seems to be kind of perched in there. So I'm not sure why it's there, but that same sedge is.
The one that it was all grass was up near the front?
Yeah, that was a sedge.
Okay.
Okay.
So the drainage ditch comes from the storm drains in the street. And it runs like almost along the whole northern border
Can you find this?
into the wetlands.
Nope. There you go. So did the wetlands basically match this description, or do you think it has to get?
Yeah.
Does the delineation, it shows it as flagged along that edge.
Yes.
Yep. That other thing that she's talking about was over here.
Yeah, there's a berm and there's a big area.
Is it under a quarter acre of collection
I
area?
don't know how big it is. I was trying to figure out if it was a.
Actually.
Or not. I thought we should go see what it looked like in a storm.
Yeah, right.
Excuse me,
This is the drainage ditch.
Yes,
I'm Wilson, sir, and I'm the abutter that's immediately right in front of him. Abutter Circle View and Stony Hill Road.
Mhm.
And I can tell you from experience, my lawn gets completely flooded on the Stony Hill Road side. I do not know how it gets into the storm drain, but it accumulates there. And when I look out my porch window, there's like a small swimming pool on the other side. That where you were pointing along the other side of the,
next to the green jaggedy line,
excuse me?
next to the green jaggedy line or on the lower side?
It's somewhere in there.
And you are which side?
I'm on this side.
Yeah. Like,
Okay,
Yeah. I'm guessing from the layout, right about where the curve is to the little black curve.
this is proposed building.
Right, okay, so where your little black curve is on the top?
Up here?
Yes, yes, it goes down and along the side.
Well, this is the drainage ditch right here. on this side from the street.
Oh, okay, so his property goes to the black, all the black?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's over by the brown, between the brown and your red lines.
This is just the flag.
Yeah, it's
Here?
just north of, no, a little further back,
Back here.
yeah.
So it would be across the limit of work.
I'm guessing it's that area that.
It could be.
the Picture us of.
Yeah.
So what do you
There's a
think?
big berm there and it's.
Do you want to
low-
continue it until you can go in the rain, or do you feel like it's,
That would, the area that, I know the area you're talking about, it's just a little small area. It's not anywhere near, how much, a quarter acre?
a quarter acre?
It's, because you can see where they did the percolation.
I'm sorry, an eighth of an acre.
Yeah,
There's a local bylaw that makes it an eighth of an acre.
Oh, all right. Well, then it could be.
Yeah, it was not big.
it was just,
But
it was just
eighth
maybe
acre, how big
a
is it?
20-foot by 20-foot area.
Oh, no, it was bigger than that.
More than
I
that?
want to say it was 50 by 50 or 50 by 30.
How come your delineator didn't flag it?
Because it's not a wetland.
It is if it's an eighth of an acre.
It's, the soils are sandy. It's not wetland soil. And there's not any wetland vegetation. And it's not, and it's not underwater.
Doesn't have to be underwater, but
It's an isolated land subject to flooding. So if it holds water in a storm. And the veg, I'm 99% sure is 100% obligate. I could go out there and get one of the sedges and actually try to identify it.
who did it for you, Steve?
No, this was done, R. Levesque.
Okay. So could you, do you guys want to meet up with him during a storm, or what do you want to do about it?
Oh, if we're gonna get a storm, how soon we're gonna get a storm? We,
Well, right now, you could have one tonight.
we could have one tonight.
It has to be enough.
Is
to
there
be-
any way?
I mean, doesn't it have to be underwater for a period of time?
No, it's, land subject to flooding is determined mostly by soil, by taking soil samples,
And it's sand.
cores.
It's sand, it's sandy, so it's just sand.
Well, you can't tuck me into it. They went there.
I don't know. I didn't see what.
It seemed to be perched. I couldn't get.
Wendy is skilled at this.
Right, because when the perk test shows sand, it's all, the entire site is sand.
Well,
And
I couldn't get in there. You watched me with the auger. I got down
Yeah.
6 inches. And
Right.
that was it in that area. I don't know why. Like.
Well, it's up to
almost
you.
like
You did the
topsoil
site
was
visit, so.
Removed in that area
Yeah.
and now there's this area. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time seeing if it was an actual connection with veg to that.
So do you want Pete to meet you back there? It's Pete?
No, it's R. Levesque
Oh, okay.
Associates, not
That's his nephew, right?
Do
Pete.
you want to ask him
Yeah.
to meet you back there and you can discuss it?
Try, yeah.
Okay. So we'll continue it until the next regular
We
meeting?
could see if she could inform us when she sees the flooding.
My other question is, and it's just so that I know, is when it's graded, how is that going to affect the water on my property? That may be for the next meeting, when you go back and reassess it.
Yeah,
I thought I had a current picture of it.
typically we would look at the contours, but the planning board will also do a stormwater evaluation, which should evaluate whether,
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure how much water actually goes into that dry well, because like I say, it ends up on my side lawn.
yeah.
And
Well, we don't,
dry well is like uphill from
yeah.
my lawn.
We don't do most of the stormwater evaluations, although we have been doing it for the 530 Glandale site because it's kind of all intermixed, but they would review that. And if you think
Okay.
that you're in danger, you should go to that meeting and make sure they know that.
We might be able to go out like and measure and see if it's close.
Yep.
That's
Okay,
And then.
so-
Yeah, right. That's a good point. We should measure the actual site.
Okay. You want to move that we
I think it is.
continue to August
Yes.
Yeah. And,
and arrange a visit
yeah,
between now and then during rain?
and try to go after it rains too,
Okay,
get it, but yeah,
And if it does puddle there, it's just because of at some point, when they dug, the city dug the ditch and they piled what they took out of the ditch, they piled in front of the lot.
well, for us, it's just evaluated by the cores and the plants that grow there.
Okay,
So, unless you have the delineator come back and actually delineate it, but that's the two standard ways of doing it.
okay.
So if they meet up with him, they should be able to come to a joint decision
Yeah.
about
And maybe-
where it is and whether
Is
it's
it okay
big.
if we go out and do a measurement of that area?
Yes.
okay.
Okay, all in favor of a continuation to August 15th?
All right.
Okay,
Wait a minute, I have a continuation paper.
Yeah.
I gotta redo these are a mess.
Oh, we have a sticky note or anything so I can give her my phone number if she sees the flooding?
What do you want?
a sticky note.
She can write down my.
This is kind of a scrap piece of paper if you want it.
No,
It's like, there's nothing important on there
Here,
if you want.
this is,
Just got a legal pad there.
Okay.
have you found one?
Thank you.
All right,
Okay,
so we will close that hearing?
gonna continue it, right?
Yes. I continue that hearing, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
know what you meant.
My brain is, I hardly slept last night, so my brain is completely gone. Okay.
What it has to do with so.
Get it.
So can I get a phone call or an email when you do go on sites? Just,
Yeah,
because I'd like, if possible, I'd like to get up there just to see what you mark.
I mean, if it just happens to rain someday and I'm,
And if you run over there,
drive by and look at it, but
that's fine too.
Yeah. Tom has a habit of when he's driving around and he realizes it's a good time, he just goes there. But if you want to meet Mr. Levesque, then he'll have to be a little bit rain.
measure it all, that's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
because I don't know who his wetland scientist is.
No, I don't, Back.
He's an
Right.
engineer.
I thought you
This is-
Well, that's the company. Then
Yeah.
the people that work for Levesque
He
come
has to
out.
sign Al has to sign the very bottom one.
All right, I have to sign here.
You have to sign, yeah. And then make a new one. Okay, here's that number, write down his phone number. Al, you just have to sign the very bottom one. The continuation. Thank you.
Okay, so we continue that hearing. Okay. And now we will open a continued hearing for an NOI for a house at 374A Wilbraham Road. I cannot manage this one because I'm in a butter. So who's going to take it over? Tom?
I guess. I did go back and visit it again the other day after it's been delineated.
374 Wilbraham Road.
This is, I have the plans
We're going to continue it. So
showing the.
I probably didn't put it on.
Oh, this
This
is
is-
continued,
This is.
It's going to be
This
continued.
This was my flagging.
but it might be on your other,
Saw on your,
the previous,
Oh, it's probably under last month's.
right.
went around with your auger and you
You
noticed
didn't get, yeah, it should still be on the computer.
The other
for flagging,
fob that she,
wet area here.
Yep.
So we had the wetland specialist
Mhm.
back and these are all new
717.
flags.
Yeah, No, that's
No flags up here. This is,
6:25, no, 7:9,
this is the,
7:9.
this is the road, a little easier to see it. When you went out, we saw, this was the original flagged area that you saw?
Yeah.
And then,
How
went
they
out with,
come on there, they
I didn't even.
went around with,
They're my normal
and
notation.
she noticed that this is where they just,
Those are
plan that
those are the recordings of the
for
meetings.
test-
Those are the,
then even
Zoom
more,
meetings.
this is all the area that
So it must be.
sent the wetland guy back, and this is his approximate flagging. Well, that's what you saw.
This is what I just saw.
And then you saw up
All
on the
this
isolated
extended
wetland,
that.
that was
Yep.
reflagged.
Okay,
Yeah, this was okay. This was the stream that runs this way.
Yeah, but I went with you on the
Yeah.
first
well,
one.
wherever it's filed, it doesn't seem to be.
Oh, the flag.
Usually those all go to a file and you can just go back in the file, but it doesn't seem to be anywhere. If you do the up arrow, it doesn't come out into a folder, does it?
I don't believe so. It goes.
So you see that?
Yes.
all the-
Right, so
Yep.
Yeah,
I just distributed there was an original site visit where we looked at flags along an intermittent stream.
we're
And
gonna reopen the hearing?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna reopen the hearing.
And then when Wenda was there with her auger, Wenda discovered that there was soils that should all, in it, an area with wetland soils that should be flagged. So we had the wetland specialist go back and he added flags in this area and in this area. And when Tom went back in the site visit, he observed those flags.
Yep.
And what we're trying to accomplish today is to get the location of that flag area approved as the wetland line, so we can come back with a plan showing a revised plan with that flagging.
Okay. Tom and Wenda, it's up to you.
You were out there again. Could you see that rivulet that connected those two? And
That's what I was just thinking. I didn't really walk on it.
So do you still want to continue?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we continue and they'll still have a meeting to.
Oh,
make-
didn't we just have a site visit to look at this? So we're just having a site visit on top of the site visit?
Well, they need to get out there with the guy and make sure that everybody's looking at the same area.
It would be better. I mean, he was supposed
There's
to be there the other
You
day.
don't want to build a house where it's gonna get in trouble.
oh, so he wasn't there.
I was there.
No, your other guy,
Oh, no, he wasn't intending to be there.
you had originally said he would.
No, he wasn't able to go.
Okay,
It'd be
so,
nice if he could be there too.
all right. So we will recontinue. All right,
So this
But it
this
is-
one is being continued until.
you're not gonna have two meetings in August, right? Just in the,
No.
just the normal one. Okay,
Continued to August
to August 15th.
15th.
Okay.
All right. So now we're back to 374 Wilbraham.
No, that's what we're talking
Oh,
about.
that's what that was. Okay, I see. All right. I'm confused. All right, so I hadn't opened that one yet, right? Or had I?
You asked.
We circled around.
asked
I was
him-
doing it,
Opened it.
Okay,
Yes.
recused from it.
right. So make whatever motion you're gonna make, or,
I'd make a motion to continue this again to August.
Somebody gonna second it?
I'll second. And we would, we want the wetland scientists out there. We gotta-
Prefer to have him there
Yes.
when we go look at it again.
okay?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
close out.
Confusing.
Yeah.
They got his phone number.
That the guy, a guy from, Arlevec again?
No, I don't think so. Who was your guy that you had do that?
That was Steve Herberty.
Oh, okay. So if you have to call him, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve's on vacation.
All right, we've already continued the Eastbrook Bridge project. So we're down to the continuation of 530 Glendale. I expect this to be, this is DEP number WE 1730238. I expect this to be our final meeting and to take a vote at the end of this meeting. To review the process last year, there was an ANRAD submitted in February and an ORAD in October. So we had 9 months of doing delineations. Because it had to be clarified because it's a very complex resource area. Are you in the right one? Yeah, I guess so. Keep going. Okay, go back up. Yeah.
This one?
Well, that's soil, but okay. Beginning last December, we heard the initial presentation of the project. We agreed to hire Ty and Bond to do 2 rounds of peer review and later extended that to a 3rd round of peer review, which we had last time. So we've had 3 rounds of peer reviews of the NOI and the stormwater report by Ty and Bond, mostly monitored by Jean Christie. Comments were provided as well by DEP and the commission, a few other experts that were recruited, and many residents. The last round of peer review was presented at the meeting on June 25th, and we had a presentation and review of the revised riverfront restoration, leaving just a few items that need to be covered tonight. The first of which is a review of the agricultural integration plan, because the person doing that wasn't able to get onto Zoom. Is he on Zoom tonight?
Be on Zoom, yes, ma'am.
Okay, Caleb.
He's there.
Okay. Caleb, are you muted?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you give us a brief review of the agricultural integration plan?
Well, sure. Certainly you guys have it in front of you, hopefully there. And yeah, we basically designed this site to integrate agriculture from top to bottom. We've got pretty much everything in the plan, from how we propose to rotationally graze the sheep and or.
Unfortunately, our mics aren't very loud, but we can try.
It's all the way up.
Does it help if I'm a little closer?
Marginally.
Yes, a little bit. Is this up all the way? I think this is just an input, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think this one's turned up all the way.
I don't know where it.
So we need an accessory speaker.
Yeah, we've asked for one because we really, really need one. We need one that's out there. Okay.
Essentially, I just wanted to make myself available for any questions that you guys might have regarding the plan that was proposed.
Okay, I have some. All right. How will the water get to the tanks in the various grazing areas?
Oh, that's a great question. So generally speaking, we bring the water in with other water tanks. So our water systems tend to be IBC totes, which is great. We do have them areas where we are proposing to put them, but we may migrate them through the site slightly, just because we don't want the animals always congregating necessarily right in the exact same space. But we bring the water in on the back of a pickup truck with another water tank, and that usually happens once a week or once every other week. I mean, we obviously keep a good eye on the water levels, but then those water levels are gravity fed into smaller water troughs.
Are all of those areas accessible without going into the BVW?
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
Where we've proposed to put the watering systems are all accessible with a standard pickup truck.
Okay. When the animals have to move between grazing areas, how will they get there? It looks to me like they would have to travel across the BVW.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Oftentimes these areas are separated with laneways or trails already. There's roadways connecting them. We'll just set up temporary electro netting along the roadway, and then the animals can move. We'll use a border collie probably, or grain train them to move from one area to another.
So you can move them along the road and not through the BVW? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. We'll move them on the traditional roadways. Yes.
They won't have to cross the river at all.
Only on the approved crossways.
Okay, there's only one way to the far one, which is along the road. If you go any other way, it's BVW. So
Correct.
there's not a simple way to get there.
Yeah, we move them from site to site. So as we move them from the one site to the next site, it's less complicated than you might think. We're used to moving sheep across highways and around all sorts
Yeah,
of.
but most people are used to ignoring the BVW. So that's what we're trying to protect here.
Yeah, well, we definitely want to keep to the roadways. It makes it easier for us. It's easier for us to manage and monitor them that way. And keep them going in the way that we want to go, because we can also follow the existing fence lines to one side or the other. So we have less fencing to actually put up.
Okay, there's been a lot of discussion about the grass species and how susceptible those are to getting trampled, grazed. The land is stony, a lot of it, a little bit of it at the very front is prime farmland. The rest is stony soil. So do you have species that can survive that and keep that land covered?
We did soil studies in the area. We had our on-site agronomists working closely with this project to develop a seed mixture that was ideal for both the forage of the livestock as well as the animals, and for height restrictions that might be necessary with the panels. And to that point, we're only going to be making that soil better, because as these sheep migrate into that area, that stony soil is going to become very prime ag land over time. So they're running
I'm
livestock.
mostly worried about that first year or two, when it's going to be still growing in and kind of new grass.
Yeah, so obviously during that point, we're going to have a lower stocking density. We're going to build the herd of animals there proportionate to the vegetation available. We do have in our plan a stocking density calculator. And we would base that off from the forage quality that's on site. So as but because we're also moving the sheep around within the arrays, because it was designed to be to accommodate that sort of pasturing, we'll be able, if we're running a little short on pasture, we'll just be able to move them. But that's something that as farmers we're always dealing with. That's a constant struggle from a farmer's standpoint. Obviously, the animal's welfare is in our best interest, but also there's nobody that cares more about that soil and about the health of the vegetation than us farmers, because we know that good soil means good vegetation, and good vegetation means fat animals. So,
okay, in particular, that far side has some very steep slopes on it, so I think that's a thing of concern.
Yeah, and we've obviously taken that in consideration. I mean, obviously sheep are ideal for that sort of for that sort of environment as opposed to some other sort of heavier grazers because they have such just a light treaded footprint. So they will be ideal for that sort of climate as well. They thrive really on steep slopes.
Okay, the site plans call for 4 to 6 inches of extra loam, but it's not in the agricultural plan. Is that still planned?
That would be probably a question for the EPC contractors or the developers. My assumption that is if it's a called out plan, it would be. Our plan is mainly focusing on the vegetation once it's been in place and how to best maintain it in those respects.
Nick?
Yeah, no, that would be the plan specifically through the wooded areas. We're going to be converting to pasture. As you know, a large part of the site is currently pasture and field area.
But some of them are very bare.
Depends on the area. We did go do agricultural soil testing where we did a variety. I think it was 30, 1 foot deep borings, and we did send the soils to UMass for testing through a majority of those open field areas. And the results showed that material was going to be suitable for grazing, but it's the wooded areas that are going to need to likely have the additional loam added to them. So yes, that is the plan to loam those areas prior to seeding, specifically in the wooded, the areas which have currently wooded vegetation.
Does anybody on the commission have a question about the agricultural plan? Do any residents have any questions about the agricultural plan? Don?
Name's Donald Davenport, Oakville Drive. I just want to get orientated. In this permit, there's your vegetation management plan. You're united.
Do you want it? Oh, we can't do it over him, can we?
Can you hear me? No.
Yeah, I was going to have a map put up, but if we do, he'll be blanked out, so.
I just want to get orientated because I got a couple of questions. There's 2 vegetation management plans in this permit they submitted. One is yours, and I believe the other is TPE, which must be Turning Point Energy. Which one is yours?
Well, ours would be the United Agrivoltaics plan.
Okay, so the TPE plan is another one of those legacy things that we just throw in. Right, so we're not going to pay attention to that.
Is that accurate?
Could you specify like where you saw TPE so we can reference it?
Yeah, right here in vegetation management plan. The document.
Was that out of the last set of stuff, or was that go back?
Plan that is submitted.
That was in the special permit plan submitted on the final plan submitted in January.
For this planning board.
Yeah.
So this is on me. This is that you are correct. It's a legacy item, and it will be updated. It will have
I
a
didn't
new.
want to ask I don't want to ask the person the right question.
Yes, sir. You are correct. That is a legacy item, and that will be corrected.
Okay, another legacy item. We had a lot of those. Okay, so then I want to ask you about fencing. There's a perimeter fence around the whole array, and you're going to have paddocks. Is the paddocks going to be fenced as well? You said you're going to move from paddock to paddock. Are they going to be fenced? Is it a movable fence?
Yeah. So we're going to leave that up to situational awareness. Like if we need to divide that paddock up with some sort of polywire, we certainly can and will. But as it is set now, the plan is just to move the sheep from one separate array that is fenced in to another separate array that is fenced in.
So the arrays will be fenced in fully? Yeah. They won't be able to get out and go on the BBW, right?
That's correct.
To the riverfront.
And not only will they be fenced in, but they'll be fenced into the EPC specifications, like tight to the ground, and so that we don't, from a farmer first standpoint, we don't have to worry about predators coming in or our sheep escaping. Gates will be close and tight together.
So I got my question is: there'll be fencing inside the perimeter fence for the whole array. And then there'll be for the whole project, and then there'll be fencing around each array where it's going to be grazing.
Well, the
Right.
grazing will happen within that fenced in area, for each separate fenced in area. And we may or may not decide to divide each separate section up with polywire as we see fit from a farming standpoint, but that's not, but, but that's not it necessarily in the plan as it is right now.
And what
Right.
about the winter foraging, the water and the winter foraging?
Yeah, so the plan is to move the sheep around so that the first paddock that we're grazing in is gonna be then left, which would be the larger paddock, which would be where we're lambing out, would be left for winter forage and also our breeding program. So it's likely that we could divide that up within that larger array for rotational grazing.
And
We're gonna kind of play it a little bit by ear as any good farmer would.
are you gonna plant the array, the grass prior to anything that's built? So make sure it comes up. You know, generally my experience is generally they'll make sure that the pasture is in such a condition that the sheep can graze on it before they put the arrays up.
So
It's in the conditions that it has to be inspected and deemed established before all of that starts.
And in your narrative, you were very eloquent speaking about the need for family farming. And of course, Hampden is a right to farm town, so we embrace that. But is the actual owner going to farm these animals, or is it going to be contracted out to somebody else?
No, it's actually going to be the actual owner that's farming these animals. Absolutely.
Jonathan is here. I think I saw him come in.
He's over there in the corner.
Do you have anything you want to say? Nothing to add?
And the cooney pigs, where are they going to go?
Yeah, they're great. We love our coonies.
They're actually a rare breed, you know.
Yeah.
But they're susceptible to a lot of diseases, E. coli and stuff like that. So
What they do is tend to dig up the soil a lot.
they're not rooters. They're not rooters.
Yeah, the coon pigs are unique in that they're a grazing breed of pig that can actually finish on grass without a whole lot of, if any, in some circumstances, auxiliary feed like grains. So we do run cooney pigs with our sheep. We tend to have a lower stocking density. And I wouldn't say that coonies are any more susceptible than any other breeds. Personally, I've had 5 different types of pigs. We have coonies now, we have Idaho pasture pigs. We appreciate and like both types of pigs. And I think it's going to be up to the farmer as to how best they decide to work those. But the coon pigs and in general pasture pork is becoming a more sought after commodity. It's hard to find in the stores. So if you know somebody that has that, and if you've tried it, you'll understand why it's sought after, because it's a red meat as opposed to like a white meat, and it's delicious. That's all I have.
How many sheep do you project would be per acre here?
So we have a stocking density calculator in there, and it is going to obviously base a little bit on the forage content, but essentially we're going to figure out, you first figure out the weight of the sheep, because you judge everything by animal units. Yeah. And it is a little challenging sometimes to figure that out, because that's based on weight, right? So if you have lighter animals,
they eat 3% of their weight per day, right? Exactly. 2 or 3% of their weight per day.
So I would say, like, if you're just looking for a generalization, an average for grazing periods for sheep, a sheep is, a certain amount of animal units. You're going to have a certain amount of grazing days per year. If you were to say your average sheep weighed 120 pounds, some breeds are much more heavy, some are a little bit lighter, but let's just use averaging because there are lambs in the mix. You would be able to put about 3 sheep to the acre from April until December, maybe. depending on the forage quality. However, if you start stocking in any micro mini cattle or low line cattle and or cooney pigs or pasture poultry, that number is going to go down proportionate to whatever else you're putting in there. We're going to be taking care of helping our farm partner design a plan that works best for him for creating the right stocking density for this site.
And there's gonna be a haying operation. You predict 200 bales of hay?
Yeah, well, there's a
Are
very
those rectangular 40-pounder bales?
Yeah, so there's a very small section on the outside perimeter of the area that we could get some hay for winter forage. That is the plan at this time. It just seems more appropriate than brush hogging it down if it's available there for us to use. So we're hoping to use some of that for winter forage. Obviously, if you had a full stocking density on this site, you would be needing to bring in some hay as well, which is only just giving more revenue to another farmer down the road.
Are you gonna use any herbicides around the posts and that if the sheep don't eat around here? Sometimes the weeds get.
No, we usually don't do that. The only time we would use a herbicide is if there's noxious, toxic, or invasive species. And of course we want to keep those out of our pastures for obvious reasons. But in general, we try to avoid any herbicides in any areas where we're grazing. It's a farming best practice, probably nationwide. Now, that being said, the sheep do a very good job, and I'm talking about a very good job, way better than weed whackers around those piles, those H piles. So, I mean, that's a snack for them. They're going after it.
How big are how big do you predict your IBC containers will be?
They're 250 gallons generally. And then we put a float valve on a small trough. The smaller the trough, the cleaner the water is. So we usually suggest like a 5-gallon or a 10-gallon trough, just to keep the water cycling quicker and the sheep healthier.
And how many of those are you planning?
We would put one in per array. But sheep, you get 95% of their water from external sources, meaning like the vegetation that they eat. So even if we were to fully stock that site, one IBC tote would be more than sufficient if all the sheep were in that area for probably a week. In very, very hot weather or during times where they're lactating, we would obviously be using a little bit more. But in general, the animal's welfare is in our best interest. So we want to make sure that the water is clean and safe and healthy for them. And they have enough of it.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Yeah, okay. Say that again.
Area 40 Ames Road. Any of the solar panels made in America?
Oh, we're not on the solar panels right now.
Okay, all right, I'm just curious where they're made, that's all.
There is a requirement that they be tested when they're first gotten to make sure that no PVC, PFAS or PFAS or any of the 6 things that the state tests for wash off of them. Yep. And to test them again a couple of other times to make sure after they're broken down a little more that still nothing is washing off. But there's currently no requirement that they come from the United States.
So we don't know where they're.
Rory, do you want to speak to that?
I haven't bought them. There is, as you know, in the Inflation Reduction Act highly incentivizes American-made modules. The project is still going through the development process, so the goal is to be American, but we're not there yet to discuss that.
Okay.
I couldn't hear any of this.
Sorry, sir. The federal government heavily incentivizes domestic content.
Yep.
So the project is still being permitted. I don't know that it will be approved. So the goal is yes, if and when it's approved. But I can't promise anything until it's at that point.
I would just say that, we've been grazing sheep on solar sites for 12 years. Some of our sites in New York require regular testing, and we see only net benefits to the soil as the sheep are coming through year over year.
You don't see E. coli ever?
No, we're not seeing any of that sort of thing. if anything, what we're seeing is that the soils are improving. We're sequestrating more carbon into the soils, deeper root structures, more stability in the soil, better vegetation, because obviously as the sheep are congregating around this area as they're eating, they're fertilizing these areas, and they're making the ground more healthy and better. That's why I'm excited about this particular project, because we can really make some maybe less than prime ag land into prime ag land, by not just the value and monetary value that's being generated from the farming that's happening on that site, but actually because of the ecological restoration value that we're going to be bringing from this method of pasturing.
Yes.
All right, I had a question about if you bring in hay, it often contains weed species. How are you mitigating the weeds coming in on the hay?
So in a perfect scenario, by the time we're feeding hay, they're going to be in a confinement, so they would be moving off the site and into the existing barns on site, and that's where they're going to be lambing as well. So as we run out of forage on site, we're going to be taking the sheep off site. We may augment their feed a little bit on site, maybe some of the ram lambs or something like that, and we could do that either with creep feeders and or with the using the hay that's from just outside the site. But the reality is, it's in our best interest to keep any of those species off the site. We are contracted to manage and maintain the vegetation above and beyond just like, wanting to make sure it's good for the sheep. We want to make sure that it needs to be maintained in compliance with our master service agreements that we have set forth with the company. So if we have a full vegetation management plan and a full vegetation management obligation to keep that stuff off the site indefinitely for the length of the site. So our feet are held to the fire by those standards.
Anybody else? Yes.
So will there be other shelters for these animals besides just being underneath the solar panel?
There is a very large barn that's already in use and is outside the limit of work for this site.
So they'll be transported back and forth from the barn as needed, I'm assuming. I drive by one of these often in Burnfield, and I don't see a structure for the animals at the one in Burnfield. And it honestly, my personal opinion, I'm a big animal lover, it's very sad. Me and my kids cringe every time we drive by it because the animals are just, it was really hot the other day and they were all out there.
Yeah, Jonathan?
I'm just wondering about how will you transport them? I know there's a big barn there, but would there be smaller areas where they can get into when they're locked in with the solar panels?
That's a great question. And obviously the animal welfare is in our very best interest as their caretakers. So we've been grazing on solar sites all across the United States for 12 years. And I would say that in 99.9% of the cases, pasturing underneath solar is way better than open pasturing, which is the norm across the nation. So if you're talking about like those sheep farmers in Colorado, sheep farmers in most of the country, from California to Massachusetts or even up into Maine, it's open pasture grazing. They might have a small shelter. Most sheep in the United States do not have any shelter. They're like a deer, right? They're going to just be out in the open elements. When we're pasturing on solar, they're out of the rain, they're out of the wind, they can get underneath these panels, and even that extends the grazing period because there's less snow on the ground underneath these panels during that time. We've seen our animals have a significant gain over we're talking like 5% gain, which is an insane amount in the animal husbandry world, gain on these animals just because of less stress from being able to operate and eat all day long in the shade, And then at night they come out and eat in the laneways. And then when it's rainy, they go under the shade under the panels and they're out of the rain. They really have about as ideal of a scenario as you could ask for. If, for example, in some circumstances, and this, the weather turns bad as it does in New England, we pull the sheep off from sites and we put them in the barn. We know there's a big storm coming. They get stocked away in the barn just like any other sheep would. And even on maybe those sites you're looking at now, if you were to go back there in December or January, those sheep aren't on that site. They're back at their home farm. They're in a barn. They're lambing out. They're eating in shelter.
Can I ask another question? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So to that point, I'm just gonna say the grass and the solar array that I drive by with the animal often is not the best looking grass. So I'm not sure exactly how good of a grazing situation it is, but also predators. And we have obviously bears, and they do get lambs and sheep. I mean, I'm just talking like, during the night, would they be locking them up? Because obviously the bears, tend to come out early in the morning, dusk dawn, and they do get sheep, deer, baby deer, things like that. So what do you do?
Yeah, so if we lose an animal to a predator, we lose like $300. Like that's just insane. Nobody wants to lose an animal to a predator. Predation is a real thing. We do our very, very best to mitigate that from every standpoint. That's not just on solar, that's every farmer in the United States. I mean, most farmers have 4-foot high fences that, bobcats can jump right over, bears can climb over easily. These are going to be in high fenced in areas. So for example, like a chain link fence would be easy for a bear to get over. These particular fences, with being agricultural fences, are much, much harder for bears to get over. If a bear were to get over, then obviously we would need to address that. Most of our farmers have some sort of a livestock guardian dog. It might be a Great Pyrenees or some sort of dog that's out there hanging out with them, living with them. And in certain circumstances where there's high predator pressure, we just put a livestock guardian dog out there. Those dogs are part of our flock. They're part of our family. They're part of our regular management routine. We have livestock guardian dogs on solar all over the United States right now. Obviously, same with like our border collies. I mean, they're an integral part of how we operate our business. In some cases, like we were just talking with a farmer in Indiana, he has a llama on site that helps to eat the vegetation and also scare animals away. Probably wouldn't work against a bear, but definitely works against coyotes and bobcats. So I think, to alleviate any sort of concerns in that, it is a concern for us. And if it's a concern for us, then we're going to address it in the most safe and responsible way possible.
Okay, unless anybody has a really important question, we have a lot more to cover tonight. Gina?
Gina Stabello, 219 Ames Road. So I don't know if you've done any projects in Massachusetts or not, but it appears that based on the paperwork, you're going to be having, for example, the pigs and the poultry together grazing. Is that correct?
They might be rotating in different paddocks, but we're basically saying this is a possibility. This is what we're kind of shooting for, is an integrated hybridized management approach. So we're not trying to pigeonhole one particular thing. It could be more one thing, more or less the other thing. But the idea is, like, from a farming perspective, we want to be able to be as flexible as possible to meet the market demands for certain things. We do graze a lot of runner ducks with our sheep. They go through and pick up, a lot of the snails and stuff that could cause meningia or things like that for the sheep when we're grazing.
I'm gonna stop you right there, because I understand you want to give a detailed explanation, but the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources does not recommend that you mix birds with other production animals because of avian flu. So
obviously
something you want to do.
Concern, but avian flu does not transfer from the birds to the animals. So it is,
If your flock becomes infected, you may not be able to move milk or other agricultural products unless your birds are kept separate and you have good biosecurity practices in place.
yeah, and that's something that all farmers have to deal with. It's not just something that like would happen on one particular farm. Again, when multi-species grazing, we are very aware of all of the rules and regulations. It's our livelihood. We can't do this without understanding all of the ramifications, the pros and the cons. We've found it to be beneficial in many instances to run a few, and I'm not talking about like massive production amounts of certain species with other species. So for example, if you were to run one cooney pig to every 10 sheep and a few runner ducks or turkeys or things of that nature, the turkeys are going to be going through picking out some of the bugs and the protein that they're looking for. The pigs are going to be going after the things they go for that maybe the sheep don't go for, some of the broadleaf stuff. The sheep are going to be going after it. That's a form of farming that's well accepted across the country. I mean, it's may not be recommended to do like, oh, tons of chickens and, but again, I think a lot of that also has to do with production value. So we're like, if you're selling, trying to sell runner ducks commercially, you may have a completely different option than if you're like, oh, we're going to put out 10 runner ducks so that we have some eggs. Well, and the sheep are going out to production.
That doesn't really answer my question. You're going into a big explanation, but I mean, ultimately, what's your game plan if the entire flock gets avian flu?
The entire flock won't get avian flu because avian flu is a bird disease. It's not
actually somebody just died from it, so
That's not really relevant to this project because it's just a farm question.
The question was the fact that they're talking about doing multi-species grazing and the state of Massachusetts tells you not to do it. So
it's at the moment.
Getting beyond the scope of the.
Yeah, it is.
Protection Act and the notice of intent.
It is really.
This would be a concern.
It's in the.
Correct. Well, we're asking about the agricultural plan, but what we need to know are the things that are relevant to the BVW and the wetlands.
That's fair, but he was here, so I figured I'd ask him to wrote the report.
Yeah, but we are like super tight on time. We're going to be here till forever. Don?
Is the pasture, any of the pasture land in the buffer?
I didn't hear that.
Yes.
No, the pastures are designed. Yes, some of them are in the buffer zone. None of them are in the BVW, but a lot of things overlap the buffer zone. The fences, some of the pasture lands, some of the paths, also in riverfront. At that western.
Is that an issue?
Yeah, it's allowed, but it's an issue. Yes?
John Matthews, North Munson Road. Nobody's really told any of the nitrogen loading from the manure. We spoke about basically during the winter, the sheep would be, or the animals, whatever you're going to have would be herded up into the barn. And, we still haven't talked about where that manure is going to go. How do we ensure that the brook isn't going to get contaminated? And I'm saying contaminated. How do we assure ourselves that downstream we're not going to be contaminating the town's water supply? Are we going to do water sampling? Are we going to?
Yes.
That's.
The Board of Health on Monday voted to require testing for E. coli. That is now in the conditions. And that will be done on a very regular basis as a continuing condition, which means it lasts even after the project is over.
And
until the commission decides not to.
That, if you will, southeast corner where it's very steep, you're talking 25% grade. Munson Road in Wilbraham is a 23% grade. So that puts it kind of into perspective that you got a very, very steep slope. Those are just some of the concerns that I have.
Yeah, what I've asked for is testing at each of the infiltration basins and testing at several sites along the riverfront, after it's gone down those tributaries, just to make sure those tributaries aren't getting polluted. And I think one place in the tributary, in each tributary.
Thank you.
I'm paranoid about that, I have to admit. What's that? Yes.
You mentioned E. coli, but I think nitrogen is also a concern.
I believe it asked, what they asked for was E. coli and the standard state testing. And I believe the standard state testing involves, I can't absolutely swear, but I believe it involves nitrogen loading as well.
I could speak a little bit to that as well from a perspective. Yeah, in general, you're not going to see the nitrogen loading in in a pasture grazed operation with a low stocking density like what we've proposed, like you would maybe in a high confinement cattle area. So, I mean, obviously there are some concerns around that when it comes to particular farming methods. However, this particular farming method does not fall within that sort of a concern. Any nitrogen that's being put back into the ground is just being eaten up by the plants as the sheep kind of mill about. Their droppings are just fertilizing the grass and making the grass root system that much stronger. They're not in a large area where you're going to have huge amounts of nitrogen load like what you'd see in maybe a high density confined cattle space, or where they might be spreading cow manure out on crop fields.
But what John was speaking to is that in this particular site, right through the middle of it, there are 3 streams. And by the nature of the shape of the site, it's going to want to force all the runoff into those 3 streams that run through. And so there's a lot of concern about nitrogen loading and other kinds of things being carried in those streams.
Certainly, there's been a lot of testing done over the years around this, and a lot more even in Europe. But you will find that that this isn't going to be an issue because the sheep are very, very efficient foragers, and their nitrogen load is significantly reduced as a result of that. And because any confinement is going to be in a barn space, it will be very easy to handle and manage that that waste product.
On the grass. Sue Blaustein? Is that who we're listening to?
No, I couldn't understand what she was saying.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hi, yeah, Alex,
There she is.
I'm wondering how long you all are going to be supervising the care of the animals, and what happens when you're done doing that?
What was the question again? Sorry.
I'm wondering how long your group is going to be supervising the animals.
Do you stay with the farm as long as the facility is there, or do you quit somewhere in?
Yeah, correct. We work directly with the farmer and the asset owners to ensure that there's a
entire
that it's very streamlined
for the full time of the facility. Okay, anybody else? Yes.
Yes, you alluded to Don's question about animals in buffer zone. They will be in the buffer zone because the panels are in the buffer zone. They're under the panels. They're going to be in the buffer zone.
Well,
there's no other fencing.
The grazing land, I hadn't gotten to it because we got kind of tied up in this, but I was going to ask Nick, exactly where will those fences go? Don't they go right at the edges of the where you're going to seed, or do they go farther out where they would end up in buffer?
You got panels in the buffer zone. Are the sheep going to be in those paneled areas?
Correct. That's the proposal, that those areas are going to be the pastures, the areas underneath the panels, which will all be fenced in. Yes, those areas will be, there are portions of those areas in the 100-foot buffer zone.
Will the fences go right up against the green, or will they go out as far as the panels go out?
The fence
Because the
line's
green is actually
shown on the plan. It varies, but yeah, but the fence line essentially is the edge of the green with the pasture areas. And that keeps,
So you can judge that by the green.
Fences.
There's an outsider, there's a perimeter fence that's going to go along where the purple line is.
There's going to be an inside fence for the animals.
and then there's
Those green areas, it's going to have its own fence that's right up against the green.
there's additional fencing interior to the perimeter fencing.
Right.
To kind
But
of
to whatever extent
different zones.
any zones go into buffer, yeah, everything will have some
As
possibility.
Caleb said, this is just the first pass, as the farm begins to operate, they may want to isolate more zones with additional fencing. And obviously that would be coordinated with the fire department to make sure that they have access to any permanent fencing. Some fencing, as Caleb said, would be temporary to, if they're grazing it for 2 weeks in that area, there may be some temporary fencing to segregate off a certain area, maybe in the larger pastures. But
Yeah.
the idea is there's the perimeter fencing, which is required for the electrical codes, right? For safety. And then we're going to have additional interior fencing and gates to
Which
segregate.
is also required to keep them out of the BV.
Exactly. So yeah, there is fencing up.
Okay.
It's primarily, it doesn't go into the 25-foot. We are up to the 25-foot in some areas. On the easterly part of the site, we're about 50 feet, kind of varies, but we are a little bit further than the 25-foot zone through that area with the final fencing. So.
Okay, thank you, Caleb. We appreciate it.
It was great talking with you guys, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, Rory submitted a peer review comment response and a set of new items. And I don't want to go through the whole thing because it's quite extensive, and it's been posted, you can read it. But I did want to summarize a couple of things.
I think I gave everybody. Maybe.
I might have a second copy. Well, we can put it up if you want.
This is it's number 3, right?
It says on a peer review 3 comment response. It's in that 530 Glendale set.
Papers.
Third from the top. Okay, down at the bottom, peer review 3.
I don't see it.
Okay,
I don't-
there it is.
Okay.
Okay, it's this big, so
That's the peer review. That's not the response to the peer review.
Yep.
Were you referring to the response to peer review or the peer review itself? Sorry.
have we got the wrong one?
That's not
The comment response? Go back.
That's for Jim.
Stealing this. Oh, yeah, there it is. No, yeah, time bond comment response. I think that's it. Yeah, there we are. Okay, so one of the items that I wanted to discuss was that Nick was asked to recalculate the culvert and the slope of the culvert. And he determined that the culvert that was there was capable of managing 25-year storm flow, which is the standard. But I'm very happy to find that you have made it up to the 100-year standard, because that is something I was very worried about.
So just to give a little brief description, we can pull the plan up if you want, but it essentially looks the same. So when Ty and Bond asked us to calculate it as if it was a pond versus just water going to the thing, to the pipe directly, I noticed that it was going to pond up a little bit, which we didn't want to happen. So I increased the size of the pipe from a 12-inch to an 18-inch pipe, which fully passes the 100-year storm without backing up at all. As you can tell, it does back up today. That's why I think you were concerned with what was going on behind the stone wall. That will alleviate that and allow all that water from further up the hill to channel through that larger culvert. And through that area, we did install and size a pad for the outlet of the pipe. That was another one of the comments.
A larger pad?
Yeah, a riprap pad.
Okay.
Riprap dispersion pad at the end of that pipe. And I just wanted to make sure that the commission was aware. We did have to increase a little bit of the disturbance in the 25-foot no disturb zone by, I think it was a minor.
Right, for the size of the pad.
Yeah, I had to extend the pad out a little bit further. We're not in the wetland, but we had to increase that disturbance by like 150 square feet. So I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware. And I did submit an updated table here. And that
You also provided calculations for all the pads, right?
correct, yes.
Okay.
Oh, those were already there. It was just that last one.
Just double checking. Okay.
So yeah, I just wanted to make you guys aware. So it's just under 1,500 square feet of disturbance in the 25-foot no disturb zone, 1,498. I think we were at 1,350 or so before. So minor increase. I just want to make sure that the commission was aware of that. And the result of that is putting in that pad that was calculated to require certain length for that pad.
Okay, and under riverfront performance standards, which is on the next page. Okay, this reviews all the same ones as the peer review folks did, but there was one where they said the stormwater management wasn't met, and I presume that it now meets.
Yeah, and that I had
send that to Jean. Did she respond?
I sent it to everybody. I haven't heard anything from those guys, but we did clarify what they were referring to at the last meeting, and that was the updated mounding calculations that was detailed in here, which we provided. I did make a few minor tweaks to the basins, nothing major, just, made them, had to make one or two, the first basin down in the field. These are playing this up, and the basin all the way over to on the east side. I made those slightly larger because I needed to have a little bit more volume in those basins.
So maybe rather than look at this text, we should be looking at one of the maps.
And I raised the floor, roughly 3 inches on those basins, just because the mound showed to be a little bit higher with the parameters that were agreed upon. If you go,
keep going.
Right there.
I've got the basin.
So that basin right there, I raised the floor slightly, a couple inches, just to make sure the mound wasn't interfering with the bottom of the basin. Like I said, based on the new parameters that were agreed to from the peer review and from the recommendations from, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry. Dr.
Oh, Dr. Weiner, Gary Weiner, you mean?
So yes, we took their considerations in and made modifications to the calculations just to satisfy everybody's.
Okay. Is Gary here tonight? No. Okay.
So that basin, like I said, it grew 4 feet to the south, not in the buffer zone.
Oh, I can't see you behind Bonnie.
And so the mound that we had calculated was a couple inches into the bottom of the basin. So we raised the floor of that basin, but we stretched it out to maintain the volume, if that makes sense. So it got a little bit shallower, but I made it a little bit longer to maintain the same volume.
Had you had a chance to look at that?
The mounding analysis wasn't my concern in reviewing the stormwater report. Gary Weiner, 53 Mill Road here in Hampden.
We had solicited some remarks from him, and he had made recommendations about the mounding and about the definition of the particular flow areas that were used. And later on in this report, they did look at those.
And I would like to comment.
Sure. So we modified the mounding calculations. Like I said, some minor changes, nothing that's really going to look completely different. Like I said, stretch those basins out a little bit and provided the updated stormwater report to those guys. So everything works. Like I said, we had to make a few tweaks based on the updated inputs that we all agreed to. And that's the only other major change to the plans other than the 18-inch culvert that we modified.
Okay, any questions about that section? Okay, you declined to redo the shade analysis. Do you want to explain why you decided that wasn't necessary?
Yes, ma'am. Again, just as a common practice in this whole industry, what we performed was was the standard analysis. And by doing additional analysis, I would actually have created a larger shadow than what is typically required. So Ty Mom made a comment about doing an analysis on the east and the west side. If you were to do that, I would create a larger shadow, therefore needing to clear more trees. So again, the goal was to clear the minimum amount of trees in order to minimize the disturbance.
So you think you're not going to end up having to come back and get permission to clear more trees later?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
That is the goal.
And just for the record, that would always be at the discretion of the commission to cut any more trees, clear any more land in, say, in 5 years, say, if something goes on, a new permit would need to be requested, and that would be at the discretion of whoever's sitting on the commission at that time. So based on, the analysis Rory did, he believes that the limits of clearing will be, satisfactory for the energy that they're targeting to produce with this system.
Any questions about shade analysis or what it is? Okay. Okay, on the next page, you don't have to go to it. There are some areas where the slope approaches 25% or 4-to-1. And you've made some recommendations for that?
So it's actually on this sheet that we have up. See those dark like lines, kind of like in the center of the picture? So those are what we had talked about.
That's one of the steep areas.
Yeah, that's one of the steep areas. And what we show on there is.
Is this a full-size one? You
can zoom in a little bit too. So those are riprap.
Up in that corner.
So just right in the center right there. Yeah. So what I call velocity breakers. So you can see that little weird hatch.
Mm-hmm.
We're putting those in through to kind of break up any concentrated flow that may be running through those areas, those are the 25% grade areas right there. And, we show those, but obviously the note says, additional locations may need to be specified, by myself during construction. Because, when you cut the trees and, you start doing the work, you'll notice where there's areas of concentrated flow. I'll go out to the site, make an inspection and say, we need to add something here to address concentrated.
Is that something that would be sitting around ready to use, or is it something you have to shoot?
I mean, it's essentially just crushed stone and filter fabric, all very easily to obtain. They could have that material the next day when needed. And I did there's a detail on the last sheet of the plan set, just that shows how you would install those in case you wanted to look. It's essentially this little triangle, a couple feet wide, embedded in about a few inches into the ground with filter fabric.
Probably that.
Last page, top right corner. Go down, nope, keep going to the next one. One more. Right there, just above that. So that's essentially, so you have filter fabric, we're embedding the stone 6 inches into the ground, and we're just kind of piling it up about 18 inches. It's not going to look as neat as that because the stones are obviously random shapes, but it's, roughly 25 to 75 pound stone that we're going to lay in those strips. And I've used this type of velocity dispersion at various other sites, and it seems to work well. A lot of times we end up installing more than what's shown on the plan because it's hard to identify where you're going to have concentrated flow, right? When you're doing the plans. So these are also a maintenance item. I do have a line in the operation and maintenance plan that also says, if you're seeing concentrated flow through certain areas, install something like this to mitigate. And all this does is the water is going to come down, it's going to hit that, and it's going to spread out through that stone and then continue on its way down the slope instead of digging in a channel and eroding as it's making its way down towards the wetland.
Okay, Ty and Bond had recommended several different conditions be added, and I did add all of the ones they suggested. Some of them were added to conditions that were already in there, and they were just refinements. Some were added as separate conditions. The next question is about curve numbers, so probably this is where you want to talk.
Excuse me, everybody can hear me.
Do you want your map up?
Yeah, would you put the plan back up?
You have to go out of this one.
So can I make one statement before Judy? I just want to say for the record, for everybody here, Ty and Bond agrees with my curve numbers in the analysis that we've provided. It's detailed in their letter. These are the qualified professionals that were hired by the Conservation Commission to review the stormwater report.
However, they did acknowledge that these meet industry standards and the standards that things are compared to, not an improved state, which a lot of people are doing because of climate change. That's why I was happy about your new culvert. Okay, go out. Yeah, okay. Jamie, your opinion. Which one?
The one you had previously with the incorporation of at least one of the thoughts that I had about my original letter.
Do runoff, yes. This one?
You can go back to the one where they were talking about the stone breaks in their
Oh, in their own plan?
in their plan.
Never mind, go back.
This one, I think.
All right.
There you go.
That, yeah, stay on that one because I think it's critical because, see, you can see the dark areas. Where it's dark there, those are the highly sloped areas. And there's one there, that's probably the worst, but there's also one down at the end. There's one over there on the right. There's a couple of little slopes in there.
Just for the record, I'm a professional civil engineer, been doing stormwater for about 50 years. Many projects here in this town, as well as the surrounding community. And I was asked to take a look at the stormwater report and put together a letter indicating some concerns that I had regarding the actual modeling that was done for the stormwater. And I concur with you, sir, that Ty and Bond has agreed with you that the curve numbers are adequate to potentially protect the resource areas that we have been trying to protect for years and years in this town. However, University of Massachusetts is currently reviewing curve numbers for solar installations. The Department of Environmental Protection Solid Waste Bureau, because of concerns that they've had and with problems that they've had with solar arrays on their landfills, are currently looking at curve numbers. So when I raised the question about curve numbers and runoff and the amount of water going off of that site, I was trying to start the conversation that on 25% grades and less steep grades, you have areas which were uncontrolled. Now, it seems that the light has dawned in some of your areas where you have now put the stormwater breaks, which makes sense, make absolute sense, that runoff off of panels, particularly if you're grazing animals who have the potential to rut and create channelized flow, you're going to need to be able to protect the wetlands by slowing those flows off the panels down. And that was the purpose of my letter. I'm still concerned that there are a number of areas that are uncontrolled to the wetland. And so what I asked Ty and Bond to do was to review what I proposed, and that was to not just model the areas that are under construction, but to take two critical points right at the property lines where the wetlands discharge and to model them. That way, if there's an increase in flows off those panels, which go to the wetland, then you would be able, through modeling, to determine whether or not you've increased peak flows. And that's standard 2 of the stormwater management standards, that there should be no increase in peak flows off of that site. And you've done a good job where you can control those flows with your 3 basins. The problem is there are areas that are flowing, if you will, uncontrolled into the buffer zone and consequently to the wetland. So my question to Ty and Bond was, what about modeling at the property lines where the discharges occur. They chose to say, that's a great point. However, we will stand with the modeling from the developer. And I still raise the question. I hope that your controls would extend even further along the slopes as you've got them there. In the northeast corner, you've got some serious slopes also. Water runs at 90 degrees to the contours, as you know. And there are areas where uncontrolled water is going to come off those panels. And again, the potential for erosion is much greater on the slopes based upon the soil types you've got, which I guess the gentleman else raised.
Yes, Dr. Gurvidian.
And so that was the purpose there. I'm still concerned. I live where the Scantic flows through, and we have a flooding problem. And I think many residents here have also seen the Scantic run brown from that site a few years back when erosion took the horse farms, horse area, basically had it run off into the Scantic through Laughing Brook, basically ran brown for 3 days. So what you're doing is much more impacting. And like I say, yes, you can put erosion controls in place. And yes, if someone is there constantly monitoring, then I'm not concerned. Not concerned. What I am concerned is that after a period of time, you're going away. And when that happens, then the reports will stop and the investigations will stop, and we may be left with a mess of it. So as part of my letter, I asked if there was a way to monetize a potential event. And I guess that's being looked into now, again, whether through bonding or what have you.
Yeah.
Just to ensure.
We do have a bylaw that allows us to ask for a bond specifically for the adequate construction of the stormwater parts of the facility. Rory has suggested $25,000 for that amount. Do you think that's sufficient? We aren't allowed to bond for virtually anything else but the stormwater flow.
I mean, my personal opinion is that the developer would be on the hook for monthly or bi-monthly reports and physically walk that site and make those reports to the town on, like I say, it's every 2 months or whatever the commission or the stormwater permit would allow in perpetuity.
We have included conditions that require that either the environmental consultant or project engineer, which are the one they choose, submit reports bi-monthly.
That under the CGP, there is a sign off, there's a period of time when the developers are going to review the site and make certain that it's in accordance with your conditions and the conditions of the CGP. And they're going to get a sign off, if you will, whether that's a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. Then the inspection process goes away. And the potential then becomes who's minding the stores, who's watching out for the wetlands at that point.
I think I made it a continuing condition that gets entered into their deed.
Okay.
But I will double check.
Judy, can I add to that?
Yeah, I was going to pass them out later. We get off here.
So I do appreciate your comments, sir. This site.
Oh, I sent it to Rory.
Is it your typical solar?
The conditions?
They put the switch and, people come by maybe once a month or when something breaks. This is going to be a working farm. The farm owner lives in that house right there. There's going to be constant eyes on this site with the rotational grazing. It's only in their own benefit to remedy any erosion issues, soil issues that would occur through those areas. And I do agree. I mean, there could be other areas that see concentrated flows through the steeper slopes. I am aware of that. Like I said, I did put a provision in the operation and maintenance plan. If that is observed, there's a procedure there. I hope I would be notified to come out and take a look at it. But as you said, in 4 years, 5 years, when this is all done and dusted and built, signed off on by everybody, and the certificate of compliance is issued, you know, I play no role until I'm called again, right? So there are provisions in the operation and maintenance plan. It's a more
I just have 2 of these, but here's the in perpetuity.
operation and
You
maintenance.
can read
plan.
that and see if it has the ones you're
Stormwater
interested in.
operation and maintenance plan they do have for a parking lot. So there are provisions for addressing those areas, those concerns, and where you do see those you may see those concentrated flows in different areas. But you know, as we spoke about this before, the way to solve those issues is through stabilization, right? Get good growth. That's why we're having small, you know, it's going to be conditioned. I saw in the conditions, we're not allowed to open up more than 5 acres at a time, cut, stump. Then we're going to get those areas stabilized. And then the racking will be installed. And once you have a good base, yes, you're going to eat up some of that grass when you go in there and, you know, install your racking with the machines they're going to be using, but it's not the heavy equipment that they're going to be using to pull the trees. You then restabilize after that work. So you're going to start with a good base. Portions of that will be disturbed, and then you're going to reestablish. And as Caleb said, you know, this is going to be a working farm, and it's going to be part of the farmer's livelihood to have good grass. So that is going to be a top priority during construction and through the perpetual maintenance of the site from the farmer, from the solar team, to be monitoring the site. There are requirements in the operation and maintenance plan to do monthly inspections. Now, are those sent to anybody? It's not a requirement that those are to be forwarded to anybody, but those are provisions that are detailed in the operation and maintenance plan that's been provided.
A lot of the reports, a lot of the conditions that Ty and Bond asked for were inspection and reporting plans, and we tried to coordinate them, except that the health board asked for more frequent, so we had to change that one too.
So there, and like you said, that shouldn't be an issue. There should be constant monitoring of the site from Caleb's team, from the property owner.
But he's right that when the CGP gets signed, you have to have other conditions if you want it to continue through the life of the site. So those I think those are in there. Is that enough? Is that sufficient?
Well, they're in here. And the devil's always in the implementation as time goes on. Make certain that I've written O&M plans, many, and then it comes down to implementation. And I'll give you, the farmer has a vested interest to make certain that where his sheep graze it's good grass.
Mm-hmm.
But I would suggest to you that on the very steep slopes where if erosion starts, he's not looking at the same thing you and I might be looking at. And it might take him much longer to make the call. And hopefully you answer that, you know, to get out there and then suggest remediation. That's all. And so I would rather have a professional doing the inspection. Under stormwater management plans, generally subdivisions that have the bylaws require that almost in perpetuity that a stormwater professional inspects catch basins and writes a report and delivers that. Every community in the Commonwealth are supposed to be accepting inspection reports on stormwater management tools like you've got here. And those are at least once a year, depending on the bylaw. Some, I believe Agawam has it every 4 months where inspections are submitted to the town so that they know that somebody's actually walked the perimeter and seen that there's no erosion. Again, I respect that, you know, you're a consultant and you know, you have a contract, but the town needs to feel, I believe, that over the course of the life of this project, that there's going to be continual inspections by somebody who knows what they're looking at. And again, the owner's got his own ideas of what's going on, but he's not going to be reporting and writing reports. He's got other things to do. Whereas if there was a professional required 6 months, you know, to walk the site, write a quick report, I don't see anything. I don't have a problem. Or the riprap at the end of the discharge point of detention basin, first over here, is washing away. That certainly would make, I think, the residents who are downstream of this project feel a little bit better.
Okay, so we can propose adding that. John?
Just very quickly. From my experience, I echo Gary's sentiments, and I would go one step further. With respect to the owner of the property or these consultants here, but I would have an independent engineer or whatever look at this site, whatever, on a monthly basis in the beginning, and then, you know, through a 5-year period or something, we paper that off. But you really need to have somebody independent looking at the site again, because of what Gary's made those concerns.
Is this something that the planning board is likely to add to, or?
So, not speaking from the planning board, but I'll speak to the bylaw. There is an O&M maintenance requirement, operations and maintenance requirement that has a report once a year to the town. With the sensitive condition of this site, okay, and the steep, you know,
yeah,
you said it's steep.
So I guess what I'm asking is do you think the planning board will be re-looking at all of these things, or are they going to presume that what we've done is it?
Well, I can't speak to that. I would hope they do, Judy. I hope what you write, they either mirror or increase, okay, to that point. They need to look at it from a point of view. They're not really, I don't believe they're really stormwater experts, okay? I think you, Conservation Commission, you people have more knowledge of stormwater and what's. Sorry, that's my personal.
We feel very naive at this part.
And just a point of information, under their permit with CGP, which is the overriding, under their SWIP, they are, I believe, are required during the life of the project until grass is established, we have a good ground cover, that I believe it's a ½ inch of rain requires that a professional will go out, take a look at it, and write a report and submit it to the town. That's a great thing. And again, that's during the course of construction and establishment, and everything looks fine and dandy, and solar's up and running, and everybody goes away.
So if we don't include it as perpetual, they probably won't. Is that what you're saying?
I think that you can ask them that on a 6-month basis in perpetuity that there be an inspection of the site. You know, it's not unheard of under stormwater control.
I can add it to this, but it would be good if it also got added into their part.
To keep you home business.
And says inspected every month. So if they send the report twice a year, it's fine. Judy, so I believe that condition would be acceptable. I mean, they're doing monthly inspections anyways per the O&M plan from what I wrote. So, you know, that's inspection of stormwater management facilities and a general walk through the site. And there's a one-page form where they fill out basin one, looked okay, or X, Y, and Z needed to be addressed. A lot of times it's, the vegetation needs to be mowed through the basin. A lot of times that kind of gets.
So you're suggesting it would be 2 times a year for the life of the site? So as to follow after the CGP is gone?
Yeah, and I was thinking almost like April and September. So you got it after the meltwater and runoff is really heavy in the spring months. And then again, in the fall, before winter comes, and they can fix it if there's things that happened over the summer that somebody can catch.
I will add in a condition, but then I'll hope that I'll ask them. I have a list of things that I want to bring their attention to, and I will ask them to attend to that.
There is one, actually, there's 2 points where I suggested they model at the property line going off site. To me, that is going to potentially show, because you've got a bottleneck where the grade increases fairly significantly, where the wetland sort of necks itself down going off the property. If you're going to have an erosion issue caused by increased flows, there's a potential there. So in the inspection, even though it's outside of the fence perimeter, would be one location I think should be looked at. It would be
We
like
can,
bellwether.
one thing we can easily do is I can attach your commentary and those maps to the stuff I sent to the planning board and ask them to, maybe you can go to a meeting and explain it to them why it's important.
So can I just make a recommendation? There's an O&M plan that's provided. It's been reviewed.
But it ends with the CGP.
No. The O&M plan is.
Oh, the general one. Okay.
For the site maintenance and operation. I think when you start to over condition and put too many specifics, like a lot of these things either don't get done or don't get followed up on, and it's the responsibility of the town in the end. I think keeping the general inspection, review the stormwater basins, general review of the site condition, provide a report on, I'd say, a yearly basis would be reasonable. And if there is additional follow-up, that can happen at that time. But when you start saying you need to look at these 35 points on a plan, that becomes onerous and not feasible. The site will be maintained once the site's stabilized and signed off. Remember, this is all going to occur after this board, this commission, reviews the certificate of compliance request, the as-built plan showing everything was built in substantial compliance, and that the site has been stabilized. Now, I respect the comments, but when you have a fully stabilized site, erosion events are greatly minimized. Am I correct?
Yes.
So we're talking extreme situations that I feel like it's becoming over conditioned here. A condition for a yearly report with follow-up if necessary is reasonable.
Well, I'm not going to take away any of the ones I wrote in because they were recommended by Ty and Bond.
The site operation and maintenance plan. I think it's very straightforward. It's easy to follow up.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think anything that Ty and Bond recommended that they thought was important, we have to acknowledge. I think that.
Yeah, no, I read the.
Overriding them and putting in lesser.
I'm not going to argue anything.
Going to get the town in trouble.
I read them all. I believe they're all reasonable for the project and where we are.
Yeah, I will ask the planning board to reconsider this recommendation. Okay. All right. I think as far as that goes. Okay. Does the commission have any other questions that they would like to ask?
I have one. I missed last meeting, so I don't know if this was addressed, but we talked about having gates on both sides and allowing the wildlife corridor. Is that happening?
As far as I know, not.
There are rolling gate. Could you clarify the question?
She's talking about putting some kind of a walkthrough so that animals could come in one side and go out the other, so they don't have to go all the way around the facility.
My one comment is a security concern to that. I don't, if you're leaving gates open for them to do that.
No, you have a gate on this side of the road and this side of the road, and they come through the middle.
Oh, am I not understanding?
So they
I
can
apologize for that.
access the river and the wetland and go up and down the valley. Right now, the fencing goes straight across the whole area, so the wildlife cannot use the wildlife corridor.
So you're not talking about Eastbrook, you're talking about the westernmost stream.
Whatever's in the middle.
In the middle.
Putting a fence.
That's not a riverfront, that's just a stream.
I know,
Oh, okay.
yes, but the wildlife corridor, animals
We have a gate there,
they
right?
have access to that area to go through.
Forget.
And we talked about a gate because each array is
Go to the site
separately
plan, go to
fenced,
see.
but the fence goes up along the road on both sides. So they talked about it.
Yeah, but the limit of work fence goes around the entire thing.
Yeah.
And is a much bigger, stronger fence.
Oh,
So they would have to put gates in that fence and leave them open, which kind of obviates the point of the fence.
They can't get through, they can't get to the array. The big fence is around both arrays.
Yes.
No, there's a little fence around the array, an animal size fence. I think it's 4 feet, right?
That was 8.
The animal fence part.
Close that up.
Jonathan,
Come all the way.
I think it's 8 feet.
the fencing, the animal fencing is 8 feet?
Yeah, the agricultural fence is 8 feet.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's to open this right here.
If you put gates in, won't the grazing animals?
No, because
Oh.
they'll be in there each array.
Okay.
If they need to move them from the
fence.
two arrays, they can open the gate and
Right.
let them through.
Opening the.
However, they would be less protected from
And
predators
It's open.
because they wouldn't have that big gate protecting them anymore,
That kind of.
the big fence.
So
Yeah, I thought the big fence went on both sides,
the
around each array.
animals would, not the farm animals, just natural.
It just goes around the green areas. In between there's just the outside perimeter fence.
So we'd have to fence up,
So the green areas each have their own fence.
which we want.
And then they're on that purple line all the way around, there's a stronger, bigger fence. That's a security fence. So there's no way they can go through the middle without opening up the security fence.
Right.
Because we talked about last time, allowing the wildlife to go through that corridor before the last.
Yeah, and Rory was gonna look into it, and Rory says it's gonna be a security issue. They can travel down the Eastbrook corridor. And I don't see why they can't travel down, up and down the westernmost stream as well, that riverfront corridor, although it is narrow.
Because I thought that didn't go all the way around the whole thing in the bottom. I thought it just went up.
Now, that purple line, because it's security fence, it goes everywhere, all the way around. And then it does have gates that are essentially on the road at certain points in it. So it goes up, crosses the road, goes to the other side, and that's where the gate is.
Because the fence comes up along the side of the.
So we are,
The
so the
right.
wildlife have no way to go through, access those wetlands in the middle.
Frankly, I looked at it personally and I decided that if they're walking through there, they're just as likely to get tangled up in the fence and lost and caught behind the perimeter fence as to use it as a nice corridor. I'm afraid that it's already too interrupted by the road. At the top, there's the road.
On the top. With the.
And in fact, I put in a condition requiring that when they close down that fence, when they're doing construction, they actually search everything inside there to move any animals out that are in there, because I think there is a problem that's potential with animals like flying in and not being able to get out, or, animals get inside things all the time, but I'm more worried about them getting stuck in there than I am about them having to go around. But that's just me. I'm not the controlling factor here. Do you guys have an opinion?
I think the wildlife can get around the area.
Now, I will say that DEP had a big concern about nothing intruding into that Eastbrook 200-foot corridor. They asked for that to be especially guarded. And there really isn't anything except that one little teeny corner there that intrudes into it. And I think that's actually outside the fence, isn't it, that corner?
Yeah, I mean, that's the there's existing track that actually runs off the property, a little bit south there.
It's just the parcel outline.
Yeah, and then you also have, there's utility line that runs through that corridor too. If you pull the plan down a little bit, there's a transmission easement. You see just the, go down a little bit.
Now the fencing.
Yeah.
The fence, the purple line fencing, if I can call it that.
Yeah.
It doesn't go across the river, right? It goes
no.
inside and around.
Correct, yeah.
So where is this?
Can you point to it for us, Nick?
Sure.
It's hard to see the purple line. I wish it was like an inch wide. I have to look very closely at here. You could look on this one, maybe it will help you.
Well, I have
Now, the purple is the limit of the disturbance. It's not the fence line. The fence line, you can see better, you can zoom in.
A different map?
Yeah, go to like the C2s.
Upwards.
Right, so. Too much.
Got it.
Right there.
Got it.
Right, you can see this, the squares, this is the fence line, right through here, comes down, around. It does run up along this edge, as you know, it does go on the purple line at the limit through this corridor here. So it goes all the way down and covers the bottom of the array. And then from
But
here,
doesn't go into the riverfront anywhere.
no, I mean, this is the riverfront right here, but it extends, a few.
So it does overlap it a
Tiny bit through there. And that's all grass field disturbed area. And then here we bring it up and then we bring it across the driveway to keep it as much out of the riverfront as possible. And then run it along this side of the driveway.
So can we go back to the full array and point out the?
You pull up one where you can see all the way around.
Okay, this one, sure.
Make it smaller. They can see everything, yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
there's not a.
Can you put your finger around where it goes?
I thought there was a fence that went around here and around that one. Actual gates up there.
So you're just asking for a gate that would go through.
Correct.
that.
It goes the fence runs this way, then kind of comes back up through here and then runs up, across the lower side.
Yeah.
And then down and around.
So you're looking for a gate that would cross that road and let them go through.
Yes.
A gate. The problem with the gate through there is we're bringing the grade up and we have some small retaining walls there to get that 18-inch pipe in there too. So there's kind of a natural, it's going to be not natural obstruction, but it's going to be an obstruction through this area as well. So
Is there any place else there to the left or the right that could be possible?
Well, we'd have to fence in this whole area down here.
Isn't there a fence there already? I thought you just said there was a fence there.
No, it comes up and over,
Yeah, but on the other side.
up and then this way.
Yeah, but in the
Not around,
internal,
no, not through there.
there's no fence there.
No fence here. Through this section.
There's no fence.
I thought there was a fence around all the arrays.
Isn't that some of the array? Yeah.
Well, this is covered by this northerly fence up here, right?
Is there a fence going across in the bottom? Where's the bottom one?
The bottom fence.
Way at the bottom.
Down, over, around, and up. Yes, the fence goes through here.
Okay.
And then through here, it connects to this fence. There's a gate that's going to be somewhere in this location where the this fence in here crosses over and then goes up to make the gate.
So there's no fence.
That's
The
the-
whole
This-
property.
This section right here, there's no fence.
Okay, what about the other side?
And how does the animals stay in?
Through this area here,
Yeah.
that would be,
How do they stay out of the wetlands?
So there's no security fence for those panels?
no, it's on the northerly side.
Yeah, but you
Right.
have to,
But there's an animal fence on the other side, right?
We could put some smaller agricultural fencing through that area.
Yeah, we don't want them in the wetlands.
Well, I don't want it in the buffer either, so I'm not going to encourage that.
I know, we're trying to.
It's already pushing the notice.
And they're gonna be the animals will have free range into that center part.
No,
Offense,
I mean, wild animals, but not the grazing animals.
if there's grazing animals under that array,
They can go in.
needs a fence around it.
No, there would be an agricultural fence there,
Yeah.
Not
but
the 8 foot
it's
high.
Still a fence.
the one for the animals.
Yeah, it'd be a smaller agricultural fence.
But the animal.
Just to keep the grazing animals, it's not the 8 foot
Yes.
fence.
So like that red line, it's almost like
The equipment pad.
Yeah, this one's not green, but
True,
it
yes.
was basically where the green
Fence around the
areas are.
equipment pad to keep the animals from getting into the
Yeah.
areas. The short fence. The plan shows a security perimeter fencing, the minor agricultural fencing will be installed as needed through that
Yeah.
area.
It says 8 foot agricultural fence with a wooden post
Correct, yeah. Along the bottom.
along the bottom.
This is,
okay.
this is the southerly part of the site, and you can see here, it comes up, and it does, we did our best to not put fence in the buffer zone where we didn't have to.
I just don't understand if you don't have a security fence going around that upper left array, how it actually is a security fence.
Well, it's secured this way.
Yeah, and then it goes around that other one and comes back up
So
And this is all fenced.
animals can come all the way up through the middle.
and then get stuck.
Yeah,
There's no fence across.
right.
That's exactly the point.
Wildlife can come all the way up here, yes.
And then they'd have to find their way out.
Yeah.
It's like a maze. It's like the hook on the Cape.
Yeah.
Uh,
But you know, they get stuck up there all the time.
I mean, personally, the agricultural fence is how I envisioned it. I understand the concerns about the wildlife. They have the ability to make decisions and figure out where they're going. Because there are other hurdles that they need to overcome. So, ultimately, it's
Well, I think I'd rather keep extra fencing out of the BBW if we can, out of the buffer. They're already.
That whole array is not isolated.
No, it's not. I thought it was.
This,
That's not protected.
will there be an agricultural,
I understand that it's protected by that hook, but there's nothing underneath there to protect it.
under here,
There's nothing to keep people from going in at the bottom and walking up there, right?
walking up through here?
Yeah.
Am I correct?
have you ever walked this side? Like, gee, that's not really somebody would.
I know it's very tough.
And we have cameras on site, right? Lenore has cameras. So
Okay.
we will monitor that very.
All right. I'm not worried about the facility security, frankly. It's,
Well, there are
That's-
codes, there are the codes we have to comply with.
yeah.
For
Okay.
the safety of the facility.
It doesn't look to me like it's practical to try to do anything about that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes?
On that top, left corner, when you don't have an agricultural fence,
Mhm.
what's gonna stop from like the goats and sheep from coming out and going down the middle and leaving the property then?
If they jump the fence?
Jump the fence.
Yeah, they do sometimes. It would be a pain. I've had animals and sometimes they jump the fence. Sheep don't as much as like goats or
Yeah,
other kinds of animals.
maybe decide to put like pigs up in that area specifically. If you wanna work on not putting a higher fence up.
Well, it's a higher fence than I thought it was. 8 feet is really up there, so.
Or there, you said, right?
Yeah.
Right there would be 4, yes. The interior,
Oh, see, now I said 4 before and you said 8.
no, the interior
Below.
Down
fence
below
to
is-
separate the animals
Okay.
would be 4 feet.
Judy, one other comment, that whole northern fence is a stockade fence. So it's not like we, as a, in order to give the northern abutters some privacy, that is a wooden stockade fence. So that's
Correct.
not, that is a more heavy duty fence,
Along that northerly property line,
just as a note,
yes.
Okay.
as a visual marker for animals.
With dense vegetated screening as well. That's, if you go to sheet 4, next one, right there. Oh, scroll up. Yeah, right.
Okay.
So you have all those little dots. You zoom in where the, call it pink. Pink, okay, zoom in a little bit more.
Yep.
So you get,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
here, at the corner where the pink starts, it goes to a stockade fence for screening.
Yeah, so you're saying having a gate and that would be very tough. Is that where you're going?
Honestly, it was more a visual cue for animals. I
Ah.
understand the comment, but that is not a traditional fence. That is a wooden stockade fence.
Okay,
Which,
all right. I think we've got the point.
So
It could be
I could
reconsidered
see
during monitoring if
with a
animals.
4-foot
get
fence
stuck.
there, a mountain lion or bobcat or a deer can jump that 4-foot fence without a problem.
They can, but that's not a function of the facility. That's a farmer problem.
I was just gonna say that. That's the farmer's problem.
I mean, I've had
correct.
goats, sheep,
Yeah.
geese,
Yeah.
ducks. And, sometimes it's a dog.
Again, just what Caleb said, it's in our best interest to protect these animals.
Yeah,
So
it is.
whatever we need to do in order to ensure that they're safe, like that.
Okay, you had a question?
Yeah, it's in regards to the fence, they should have a fence up there. What type of fencing is gonna be up there for the animals? Is it gonna be plastic, garbage, with poles? What kind of fencing is gonna be up there for the animals? To keep them in and keep them out of wetlands?
A wooden agricultural fence.
Which one? There's many.
There's a specification for it in the
The plan said there's a specification.
wooden posts with
Posts, wire,
stock fencing or
yeah, it has a.
she's asking, is it going to be like snow fencing or something?
Like snow fencing, the orange one, a lot of people.
No, it's permanent fencing.
Traveling, for traveling animals, people put that up. That's why.
Oh, that could be utilized as temporary fencing for a week or two.
Caleb said.
Correct. Then we'll have,
The wooden posts will be in there all the time.
But
They'll just move the fences that direct where they walk or divide it.
Around the array, it's gonna be a 4-foot stockade,
Yeah.
wood wire.
not stockade.
Wood post fence.
yeah, wood posts with wire is the
It's
type
going
of
to be 4
fence.
feet.
So that's a pretty standard,
Around
that's a pretty standard animal fence unless you got jumping animals.
on the inside where we're gonna try and keep the animals, not comply with
Right.
the electrical, it's 4 feet. And then the top fence along the northerly property line is a stockade fence.
Right.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the special conditions that came out there? We gotta go. It's almost.
9:00.
Yes,
I guess I'm a little confused. Maybe I missed something. I thought the last meeting, the whole issue about the northern access to the community is basically the applicants were asked to basically design different alternatives for crossing.
we did vote that we would prefer having it lower down. And Rory chose to ask the planning board for a waiver to put it into the setback. What?
What about the 45 foot? So they're able to approach them with 45 foot, no disturbance.
I'm not sure what you mean.
The 25 foot. You're allowing
So
them.
to clarify, we're asking for waivers from both.
They're asking,
Middle ground,
yeah,
correct, but
we have many.
back to wetland. And we're also trying to respect the neighbors to the north and we're, in that area where we're close to the property line, where we have the enhanced screening, we have the 8-foot high stockade fence, we have additional plantings through that area. And that's a conversation we're gonna have with the planning board. But we feel that waiver is justified in order to protect,
Yes,
not have to fill a couple thousand square feet of wetland resource area.
we did vote to ask for that change. They chose not to make that change, so
That their fault.
tonight, we're voting as is, as it's presented. So we can take that into consideration about whether we want to accept it or turn it down.
The planning board has say over the conservation commission's 25 bylaw.
No, but yeah, if we actually did what we recommended, it would intrude in even more 25-foot and even more wetlands. It's not going to go away. It has to be one place or the other. So we would prefer that it intrude more and be away from the property line because we think it's more rude to the neighbors and interferes on the uses they want to make of that property. But that decision, the waiver of the setback, is up to the planning board. They could make the waiver. I'm guessing they won't, but we can't vote on both. We're voting on as presented.
So you're allowing them to go with one side? Sure.
Yes, we are. If the planning board decides to keep it there, then it would go through. If the planning board decides to push it down, they would come back and ask for the change. I can't understand you when I'm talking. I'm sorry.
No, it appears that the last handful of meetings, there's been this rush to just finish this thing up and just get it over.
There is, and we asked them to consider that. They did. They don't have to do anything. They have to, what they have to do is have us vote on how far they're willing to go. They're not willing to go that far, so we have to consider it when we vote.
They being the applicant.
Huh?
They being the applicant.
They being the applicant, right?
And that's okay.
We don't have any choice. They present what they present and we vote on it. We push and nudge and try to get them out of the places we don't want them to be as much as possible. They're supposed to model it to as much as they can to fit our requirements and then present what they have, considering all the things we've asked. And then we vote whether we think that adequately protects the wetlands. So if we don't like it, we don't vote on it.
Obviously you like it.
No, we haven't voted.
You're gonna vote?
Didn't vote?
Yes, we are.
There's no vote. So you must
How do you know that?
Voting isn't an automatic approval. Voting can be turning it down and then they could appeal it to the,
Yeah, we've heard the threat of appeal.
yeah. And on top of that, they still have to get it approved by the planning board. And if I were the planning board, I'd say, move it away. We have already sent a note to the planning board saying we will accept it, the setback being upheld. And in fact, we would like that better. But we don't draw the plans. We only approve them or don't approve them.
No, you have guidelines that you're not enforcing.
There's many things that if we enforced it, then we would have to say they couldn't do that whole project on the northeast side. We are not allowed to purposely make the project inviable. They present what is viable and we say yes or no. It doesn't work the way that I'd like it to and the world would like it to, but it does.
Can I clarify something?
Yes.
So for the record, the Conservation Commission has no say over the 50-foot clearing zone. That's a planning board.
He's asking about the notice
board item.
part of that.
We cannot voluntarily, per state law, we can't voluntarily just decide we want to fill a wetland when there's a viable option, whether it's through a waiver request from the planning board, if there's a available land for purchase that prevents us from having to fill.
Well, you can if
there are standards that you have to meet when you fill and disturb a resource area. You cannot just fill a wetland.
I'm sorry, but the other option is that you don't access that part of the property. That's the option. You don't,
that is not that
should go that route. It's because Rory said it makes it unlivable.
No, it's not an option for a property owner to have no access to over a third of their upland land.
The wetland laws don't allow us, because of all the special solar stuff, don't allow us to, we are allowed to vote down any plan. We're not allowed to push a plan that's inviable. So if they say it's inviable, we can't push that plan. We have to decide on this plan.
Yes.
But we can decide.
That's what's presented to you, Julie.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's what you have to decide. The applicant decided not to forego that other section.
Right.
In your request, to change it.
Exactly.
And so now you have, the ball is in your court for this point.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So Darla, I would go 560 Glendale Road.
You're the abutter.
I am, unfortunately. So this plan, the way it is right now,
makes absolutely no sense to me.
I agree. We voted to have it the other way, but
They are in the buffer zones, they are up to the property line. I mean, it is so way out of whack. How can anybody vote yes on this?
well, I think we've had the discussion, so maybe we should call the vote.
But it's gotten absolutely nowhere.
I hear you.
The fence is in the buffer zone, the grazing is in the buffer zones. Like, what the hell?
Okay, any other comments before we vote? Yes. Gary.
Just a question, how wide are the wetlands at the crossing?
The line, between the green line and the red line is 25 feet, so you could estimate it from that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
30, 40 feet.
30, 40 feet. So it is a lot of wetlands to cross, but we already said we would approve that.
And remember, it's not just shifting it down right to that edge. You need to clear, we need to construct a proper crossing. So it's not just having enough disturbance to put a driveway through. No, we need to install the retaining walls. We need to clear enough. So it's not just a 20-foot wide corridor. It's like a 60-foot wide corridor.
No, I get that, but the wetland line to wetland line, 20 feet?
No. 30 plus feet.
May I make one comment as the applicant?
Yes.
Again, there was, Nick and I had a plethora of discussions about the road. And I understand that some people want to articulate it. I just willfully did not do that. My issue is that the DEP has oversight. And if I were to disturb wetlands without having clear direction from the planning board that they will not grant the waiver, I run into the possibility of the DEP overruling the commission's decision and moving the road back to where it was. So unfortunately, I have not met with the planning board. I've met them since I applied. So I wish I had a conversation with them so we could discuss this. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. So as such, I am forced to do as such. If they deny it, we will come back to Conservation Commission and we will move the road in the appropriate manner.
But for the record, we can't voluntarily show that.
Yeah, I know you said that. I don't agree with you, but we agreed to disagree because we've been round and round here about 15 times.
For the record, we've spoken to our wetland consultant and they said DEP has taken appeal on wetland crossings that are not justified, that don't meet the thresholds.
I wrote to Mark and I asked Mark about this and he would not give me an absolute answer.
Exactly.
But he did say they are not in the habit of forcing intrusions into zoning, in other words, ignoring zoning laws. They don't enforce some of our municipal laws like the no disturb zone, but they try not to override local zoning that goes to the planning board, as long as it's not municipal choice. Okay. I get your point. Can we just vote? I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm tired and I don't think we're getting anywhere with this. I don't think it's achieving anything. I think we all understand what we do and don't like.
It's all tomatoes.
Okay.
I don't know.
Just as a personal statement, we spent 9 months last year getting a delineation. And the reason that we did that is that this is it is the most complicated site we have ever done. And that includes the one at Potash Hill Lane. It is very, very complex. And the slopes, the fact that it's not a flat site adds to that. And then we spent another 7-8 months. We've had 3 peer reviews, lots of chances to change things, lots of opportunities to argue. And I admit that I have an obsession with those 3 inner streams and that westernmost stream in terms of what they're going to carry out of the site, how they're going to be disturbed. And we have developed what I think is a full list of very good conditions. I think they're they're better than average. I had a lot of help from Mark with some of those. And I have to acknowledge that the applicants have made a lot of revision on this. They dropped one whole array. They dropped a passage through the middle of the site, which may or may not have turned out to be a good idea since there's so much argument over the north one. They did propose a riverfront restoration, if not to a full 50 or 100 feet. Jonathan has expressed a strong willingness to make good any of the prior owners' violations that are left over after this, you know, around the edges of this site. And the applicant has been willing both to finance the 3 rounds of peer review, which they don't have to. And they do have to finance a consultant, but not necessarily going 3 times around. They've been cooperative and cordial and attended all the meetings and showed flexibility to meet our messy scheduling. And most of the materials we asked for, they have submitted. And we've made 3 requests of extra materials and revisions. However, I'm going to vote no. And the reason that I'm going to vote no is that with all of the revisions and conditions that we've made, I'm still very disturbed that the arrays go right up to the no disturb zone, that there's fencing in a lot of the buffer zone to the BBW, that there's fencing, and they weren't able to achieve a full restoration of the riverfront. I do think the testing and things will take care of a lot of the concerns we have about things entering the river, but there is a lot in the current plan that relies on those conditions, as Gary said, and those conditions being enforced and monitored, even at times when, you know, we often have had a non-functioning, even in the time I've lived in the town, which is about 40 some years, we've had a non-functioning commission at least twice. So I just don't feel confident that those wetlands, which are important, and those rivers which flow straight into the Scantic from it through Eastbrook, and the Eastbrook joint of the Scantic, which has become a major vulnerability issue. I just don't think it takes care of all of those things. I worry about silting getting carried down Eastbrook, which, as has been pointed out, we have seen. And I'm not comfortable with it. Tom, if you want to vote?
Point of order, Judy?
Yes.
Need a motion to close the hearing first?
I motion that, well,
and then you
vote before we close the hearing.
No.
No, close the hearing first.
Yeah.
Okay, we will close the hearing. And I will make a motion that we vote on.
Judy, someone needs to make a motion and then it needs to be seconded. If we're gonna do this well.
I'm making a motion right now.
Okay.
And I will second.
All right.
I'm making a motion that we accept the plan, or we don't, as presented with the conditions that have been distributed. With the addition of one more monitoring condition that would be extend after this CGP.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think I have to.
For the motion.
Right?
Yeah, don't they all have to vote?
Well, we have to vote on the motion.
Oh, all right.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
You don't want to close the hearing?
Oh, I thought we were voting.
Not yet. Voting on the motion. Only,
We're voting on the motion to close the hearing
Right.
and hold a vote.
Who seconded it?
I did.
He did. Anybody opposed? Anybody want to continue the hearing? The motion passed. So the hearing is closed,
Now we can vote.
and now we will take the vote.
I
For,
can't vote because I haven't been to all the meetings.
right. for WE 1730238 as presented and with the conditions that we have sent out and discussed.
I say no. No.
It's 3 no's and an abstention due to unfamiliarity. So it doesn't pass. So you can, I will tell you out there not to get too excited about us rejecting it. There's about a 50-50 chance that DEP will make revisions and accept it. But one good thing about that would be they would monitor it. So if our commission falls apart, there'll be somebody to monitor. So I'm sure it will be appealed. And it still has to go, in any case, through the planning board and the Board of Health and the select board. So even if DEP reinstates it, it's not a done deal. Yes.
Well, I understand why.
Judy, this is probably your last meeting.
Yes.
Okay, and I just like to say, many years I've been in town, 54. We've been on the Conservation Commission so many years. She's been an excellent steward of our resources, an excellent steward of our water, an excellent steward of our health. I think she deserves a lot of applause.
These guys are brave and bold and they're sticking around.
Or just
2 potential new candidates, just
for the record, I'd like to know if the other commissioners would like to make a statement on why they chose
Yes.
to vote as they did.
This array in the northeast quadrant, to me, is obstructive. And to get there, you have to build a road over wetlands or through an abutment. So if you got rid of this, I would vote yes on the rest.
Same here. I feel the same way. The array itself
You're gonna deny access to 12 acres of upland, prime upland land.
they're just saying if it was presented that way, they would accept it. But they're not denying anything. Yes, Gary?
Will you take a vote on the bylaw also?
Oh,
Bylaw.
well, we have a municipal bylaw. So usually on small cases, we don't bother to vote separately, but on something this big, we will.
Okay.
So do you vote to accept it or reject it under the municipal bylaws,
Say that again?
which are very similar?
You're talking about the Town of Hampden one.
Yeah, the Town of Hampden bylaws.
Okay.
You're not used to us taking a separate vote, but on a large case, we usually do.
Right.
So we have to revote everything we voted, but not under the Wetlands Protection Act, under the municipal bylaws,
Which states?
which states pretty much everything that's in the Wetland Protection Act, but also includes the no disturb zone, for instance.
Okay. That,
Did I make a motion? Did you make a motion?
Yeah, I made a motion.
Sorry.
Yes?
So this now goes to planning board.
Well-
They have to approve the waiver for
It's up to them, yeah.
flooding, is that?
Well, it's in the 50-foot and 100-foot setback from the property line.
Exactly.
So they have been asked for a waiver to let it go where it is, and they have to decide. It's possible, rather than appeal it to DEP, that Rory and Nick could redesign the whole thing and bring it back. I'm not guaranteeing that it would pass with it having, I mean, a lot of the issues I stated are not taken care of by moving that. It's just another additional thing that I find very unpleasant to approve.
That's what we want to vote the bylaw.
You haven't
Yeah.
done that yet.
So we need to vote. I vote no.
No.
Okay, so if there's any 10 residents that don't agree with the decision, they can take a petition and either ask us to reconsider it or ask DEP to override us. I'm doubting that's going to happen. But also Rory has the opportunity to ask DEP to write a superseding order that would negate what we did. And they don't address the no disturb zone. It would just stay as it is, probably, unless they purposely intruded on it. Which isn't likely because the laws that DEP looks at include that 100-foot buffer zone, and they would probably, if anything, be more adamant about it. We did have, we accepted a solar facility at the end of Potash Hill Lane called Zero Rear Summer Road with Borrego. And we put 46 conditions on it. And they appealed it because they didn't like the 46 conditions. They thought they were too stringent. They came back with 58 conditions. So, and part of that's because DEP is often more adamant because they don't have a no disturb zone. They only have the buffer, but they do allow you to build in the buffer. So they balance that. Okay, any other questions? I thank you all. I really appreciate that. I know how hard it's been with people feeling so emotional to be polite and civil and not yell and not throw objects or whatever. And I really do appreciate it. I will be writing up my explanation of my no vote, and it will be posted by Bonnie online when it's done. Because I have to send it to DEP, and I have to put numbers on it and stuff.
You're gonna close the meeting?
Yeah, I move that we close the meeting.
Second, no.
All in favor?
Aye. Save who's taking over now?
Wait, do I save it first?